and welcome to NXTGEN Racing, the home of clean and fair sim racing for all. Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another round of fast, furious and frantic racing in the one and only NXTGEN Racing Touring Car Championship Season 9 as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing and powered by Doble Motorcycles. We come to the end of the first half of the championship campaign. It is time for round 5 of 10 and we are here in the west of England for the Cheshire County Circuit that we all know and love, and they're synonymous with touring car racing. Of course, it is none other than Oulton Park. Having been founded over the best part of 71 years ago, it is a circuit that's seen touring car racing stapled onto its schedule on an annual basis throughout its history. And whether it be the sights and sounds of the super touring era or the modern hybrid touring era, well, either way, one thing that can be said is that this is a circuit that takes no prisoners when it comes to up close and personal racing. With its narrow road surface, its blind apexes and rapid fire elevation changes, it is a circuit where qualifying well is absolutely paramount to success, as is the ability to be able to go all in, elbows out, corner to corner if you want to try and find your way past your rivals. Indeed, the grass looms quite large, and this circuit is one where when you step wide, you very quickly find yourself in amongst the weeds. But those who are able to stay on the black stuff and stay ahead, they're the ones who are going to be securing glory as they charge their way around the little Budworth circuit. But where are my manners? Allow me to welcome you all to this live broadcast from circuit side from the Orange Lobby for this season, and you can be tuning in via one of 3 media platforms for your viewing pleasure as of this evening. Firstly, you can be tuning in via one of the 2 official NXTGEN Racing media platforms, those being on YouTube at youtube.com, search for NXTGEN Racing, and welcome to you guys and girls tuning in via YouTube. Alternatively, you may be tuning in via Facebook, and that's at facebook.com/group/NXTGEN Racing, and welcome to you guys and girls tuning in via the NXTGEN Racing official Facebook group. We also do have the unofficial media platform, and that's on Twitch at twitch.tv/TX141, and welcome to you guys and girls tuning in via Twitch. But I hear you asking, who is TX141? Well, allow me to introduce myself as your host and commentator for this series. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on, and I'll be bringing you all your racing action as it unfolds over the entirety of the season. But speaking of this evening, times in British summertime, alternatively from BST we go to Universal Coordinate Time +1, UTC +1. We can see on our schedule for tonight, well, we have our regular format of qualifying followed by 3 races. Qualifying gets underway at 8 o'clock this evening, 15 minutes in duration, after which we head straight to the grid for the first of our 3 races, all of which are sprint races 14 laps in length. Race number 1 is expected to get underway at 8:20 this evening, if not just before, and after that we'll make our way into race number 2, albeit not without a brief breather, with race number 2 expected to get underway at approximately 9:10. Then we have another breather, albeit not without our all-important reverse grid draw for the final race of the day, and race 3 of 3 is scheduled to get underway at 10 o'clock this evening, after which we bring to a close the first half of the championship campaign, and our drivers and our admin members will all head into the summer break. But as we get ready then to head towards the break, and this is going to be a big one because championship momentum will be critical going into that break, well, let's recap the story so far and what we can expect going into today. So as we can see in terms of our schedule, well, we started all the way back on the 29th of April at the Oulton Park National Circuit with the Season 9 calendar for the NXTCC, closely following that of the British Touring Car Championship calendar. However, there has been a change afoot, which we'll come to shortly. That was round number 1. In round number 2, it was the Brands Hatch Indy Circuit as we made our way to the Garden of England, that is the Kentish countryside, for the very small but absolutely compact and brilliant circuit. Then from the 6th of May to the 20th of May, it was the Snetterton 300 Circuit, and there near Norwich City, we got to see some brilliant battling, albeit in some rather challenging conditions. And well, speaking of challenging conditions, those continue to follow us to the Thruxton Circuit, the fastest circuit in the United Kingdom, in the county of Hampshire last time out on the 3rd of June, where we got to see plenty of big surprises, including Doble Sim Racing achieving their second ever, I believe, 1-2-3 in terms of finish performances in race number 1 on the strategic gamble that played out for them with what was Isaac Doble taking victory ahead of Mikey Doble and then Joe Doble, albeit they weren't quite able to replicate that trio of podium finishes over the course of the remainder of the day. But indeed, it was a brilliant gamble there, and we saw plenty of gamble from our drivers, some making it work out, some didn't quite make it work out, and one to watch as one of the Pro-Am class was Rhys Watt. Then coming on to today then, is the 17th of June, and we're here at the Oulton Park Island Circuit, expecting much more stable and sunny conditions today, as at long last the British summertime has finally got underway. It does seem as though the summer in the United Kingdom takes a long long time to arrive, but when it does, it's absolutely lovely. And I'll tell you one thing, right, it's absolutely sweltering hot in this commentary booth, and I can imagine out of the circuit, it's going to be boiling hot for our drivers. But after today, we have our summer break, and we will return to the racing action on the 29th of July for round number 6. Now, originally, many of you will recall that we had scheduled there to visit Croft. However, Croft has not made it onto the iRacing at 2025 Season 3 update build, and therefore we've got a big question mark as to where we're going to be visiting. Now, there are many circuits in mind, and while the decision hasn't quite been made yet, the final decision will come within the next couple of weeks as the summer break gets underway. But rest assured, we'll be letting all the drivers know, and we'll let you guys and girls know as well where we're going for round number 6 as soon as the decision has been made. Indeed, many a circuit has been touted, but I don't want to name names for the simple reason I don't want to set any expectations. But we can promise you one thing, the technical challenger Croft will be sorely missed, but we will be replacing it with a circuit that presents just as much, if not even more, of a technical challenge. But after round 6, we'll then be heading to Scotland for our one and only visit to the northern portion of the United Kingdom, and that'll be for the Knockhill International Circuit on the 12th of August, after which we return to Donington Park, albeit to take on the full Grand Prix layout on the 26th of August, and then in our penultimate round, we head to the Silverstone National Circuit on the 16th of September, before bringing things to a close, practically back almost where we started, with the Brands Hatch Grand Prix Circuit on the 30th of September, so we've still got plenty of rounds to come, and that all-important summer break is looming after Oulton Park Island today. But coming into this round, exactly where did the standings stand, I hear you ask? We start off then with the overall Drivers' Championship. And as we can see here, Luciano Witvoet has taken the lead by only 8 points over Mikey Doble. Now, while the big players are afoot there, you can see him falling into 4th place. Wojciech Swierdajczyk wasn't on the grid last time out due to being in hospital for an operation. I'm very sad to report, ladies and gentlemen, we're not going to be seeing Swierdajczyk on the grid again this time round. He's still in hospital, but we do wish him well, and he is gradually on the road to recovery. And feel free to send all your love in the chat. I'm sure he'll appreciate it, and I get the feeling that Wojciech may be tuning in today. And if you are Wojciech, I do hope you're able to recover soon, because one thing I can definitely say, and I think everyone would agree with me, the NXTCC isn't quite the same when we haven't got our 2-time champion on the grid. However, in his absence, what it does mean is that the battle at the front is between Witvoet and Mikey Doble, and then a further 23 points behind, it's Isaac Doble, who's sprung up into the top 3 and is looking to try and close the gap to the top 2 even more as the youngster continues to impress. From Swierdajczyk in 4th and 160 points, it's a further 20 to Adam Delmont, who comes into this round off of the back of a rather fractious round at the Thruxton circuit, and in particular, seeing his performance in race number 3 of the round disqualified due to accumulation of licence points, and also on top of that, having to start from the pit lane for race number 1 today, and it is going to be a very frustrating start to this round for Adam Delmont, but still he's got to keep a cool head and know championship campaigns are levelled out over the season, and one round isn't always the deciding factor. Outside the top 5, Tom Davidson sits in 6th place, the leading of the Sim Racing Collective drivers there, picking up a good haul last time out at Thruxton, head of Conrad Kula, who has switched from the world of racing with STR Motorsports team to Semper Racing going into this round, so you'll see his colours there on the championship chart, or his old colours, but you will see him in a Semper Racing livery in his Hyundai Elantra N when we do go to the circuit shortly. Then we do have in 8th Gavin Garner, the man who's taken 1 win this season. He's returned to the top step at least once after a long hiatus, but can we expect even more surprises from him today? If not, 2 points behind him is William Guthrie for Full Tilt Motorsport with Boosted Motorsport, and Andrew Pike completes the top 10 there in the number 80-point car, and well, he'll be hoping for a better day at the office. In 11th, it's Lee Horn, and for Horn right now, well, it's all about trying to find a little bit more momentum because things haven't quite gone his way over the last couple of rounds, and particularly at Thruxton, things did not come out the way he wanted to, and therefore you can imagine he's going to be absolutely pushing as hard as he possibly can in order to deliver a big score. From him, it's Alex Meredith in 12th place, and that's a run of pro drivers, because then a further 6 points behind, you have your leading pro driver overall, and none other than Lewis Delmont. We then come to 14th place, it's Benjamin Gregory, only 4 points behind him, and he's the head by 4 points over Joe Doble, sitting in 15th and rounding off the top 15. Completing the top 20, it's Reese Watt, Matthew Addy, And then we do have Jared Sabula, Jamie Dory, and Stuart Wyness. And I was speaking to Jamie Dory only moments ago before I was locked away in the commentary booth. I'm going to tell you, he's trying to chase his first win in a long time. And well, he'd absolutely love to score a win here at Oulton Park, but it's much easier said than done. But everybody up and down the paddock knows that in the NXTCC, given how competitive it is. But coming outside the top 20 then, we do have in 21st, Alan McCain, who's 2 points ahead of Kieran Smart, with Nick Clemens, Michael Lees, and Sam Van Ols completing your top 25. And then Duncan Moraes sits in 26th place on 29 points, with things not quite going his way in the last couple of rounds, and therefore he'll be looking for a bigger score today. Ben Altrier sits 27th ahead of Alexander Paulik, and then we do have Matthew Jordan, the leading AM driver, the man who springs a lot of surprises in the AM class, and we'll come on to why shortly. But his results definitely have been the most variable, but some of the most outstanding for his debut season in the NXTCC. But he's your leading AM driver overall in 29th place, only a single point ahead of Sam Smith. Outside the top 30, it's Craig Tillotson in 31st, ahead of Jonathan Collins, with Sam Bradley, Russell Fowler, Cal Murray, Marcel Fritsch and Mark Sykes completing your overall Drivers' Championship standings. Then we come on to the Pram class, and here we can see where the points shuffled to accommodate where the Pram drivers have finished in respect of their class and only their class. It's Lewis Delmont who leads the way. Now Lewis Delmont there leading by a comfortable margin of the best part of 21 points, and well, winning the podium last round meaning that he's been able to move into that top position, and he's going to try and break away. Stuart Winnes and Michael Lease they're joint in second, albeit Winnes ahead based on result count back, 155 points apiece, and those two definitely get into firm grips in battling each other and battling their peers as they look to also bring home maiden crowns. Matthew Addy in fourth on 151 points. His championship now is starting to build some momentum after a frustrating start in the opening couple of rounds, but he seems to be finding form in the Audi RS3 LMS. Ben Altrier sits fifth, only a further point behind, and then Ben Gregory, his teammate, a further 7 off in sixth. Alan McCain and Nick Clemens, the iRace esports pair, well, they're going to be sitting in 7th and 8th respectively, but look who's in 9th, Reese Watt on 126 points, and why is he the man to watch out for? He took back-to-back victories at Thruxton. He really was the king of strategy, and therefore for Watt, if he's able to continue this momentum, you would imagine that he will very quickly rise up through the ranks, and with his rivals drop points, he may find himself very quickly becoming a championship contender. A point behind him, Duncan Rise on 125 points, and again, the man who's had a lot of misfortune. He'll be hoping that fortune turns his way, because we know the Goldwing Motorsports driver has a lot more pace than those points would suggest, and there's Kieran Smart in 11th place ahead of Sam Van Olst, with Russell Fowler and Sam Smith rounding off your Pram Drivers' Championship. Then comes the AM Drivers' Championship standings, and here we can see the back and forth momentum swing of Marcel Fritsch and Mark Sykes. Well, it has lent one way and one way only since Thruxton, and that is Marcel Fritsch because Sykes was not on the grid. So therefore, it does seem as though the Verano esports driver right now looks to try and peel away a little bit further. Matthew Jordan has surged his way into second place there, and if he can find some stability and consistency in his results, who knows, could he potentially become a major challenger to Fritsch, because Fritsch's consistency has been the one thing that's kept him far ahead all the way through. We had 3 different winners in 3 races at Thruxton, and Jonathan Collins added his name to that list of winners on 162 points. He's 15 ahead of Sam Bradley, and indeed right now this variance extends all the way through the AM pack. Mark Sykes back on the grid today as we're to understand it, and therefore sitting 5th at the moment, but hoping to score an even bigger set of points, with Craig Tillotson and Cal Murray completing the AM Championship standings. We'll then come to the circuit for today then, because that's a recap of how the Drivers' Championship standings stand, and as we can see, we are here at the island layout of the Oulton Park circuit. Located near the village of Little Budworth in the county of Cheshire in England, the United Kingdom. Well, this circuit map, and indeed thank you to iRacing.com, not just for their brilliant simulator, but also the superb track mats that come with it. And this circuit map only tells 50% of the story, because yes, it points out there are 12 corners, many of them household names, whether it be Old Hall at turn 1, all the way through to Knickerbrook at turn number 7, or indeed Lodge Corner into Deerleap at turns 11 and 12. But the one thing it doesn't show is the absolute severity of the gradient and elevation changes over the entirety of the lap, and therefore as our drivers make the way around here, they won't find it's going to be flat and easy running. If anything, they're going to have to deal with undulations, bumps in the road, and also many a blind apex. As they roll the way around into Old Hall Corner, while the main overtaking points on the lap, 3 wide you can go into there, but you can only emerge 2 wide at best, and it's a short run from the avenue in towards Denton's, and downhill you go towards Cascades Corner. The long left-hander there, where you'll need to manage understeer, and as they come on out, they'll be onto the lakeside straight before they go hard on the brakes into the island hairpin. But diving on the brakes there, we can expect plenty of battles 2-3 wide. They'll make the way over the crest of Hilltop at the highest point at the back end of the circuit, and then to come charging down into Hislop chicane at turns 5 and 6. Through Knickerbrook, the right-hander at turn 7 they go, and if they get a good run, it's up the hill through Clay Hill and into Water Tower Corner, only to go hard on the brakes into Druids Bend at turn number 10, where they'll need to absolutely hit that late apex. Get it right, and they'll find themselves pointing on the straight and narrow under the Warwick Bridge and up towards Lodge Corner. Get it wrong, however, and they may find themselves very quickly understeering or oversteering into the outside or inside barriers. However, keeping it on the smooth and narrow, Lodge Corner will await them, and they'll prime overtaking opportunity before they charge to out Lodge Bend, down and up the rise of Deerleap they'll go, only to leap the way onto another lap or to the checkered flag. But then let's come to our rules. A quick reminder before we go racing. This is a fixed setup series. Setups are provided ahead of each and every race to our drivers. Driver classes have been finalised as the conclusion of round number 3. We have no class changes afoot today. Sprint race-wise, the race 1 grid shall be set based on results of qualifying. That's a given. For race 2, we'll be setting the grid based on results of race number 1. So whoever takes victory in race 1, they start on pole for race number 2, and we set the order accordingly. The race 3 grid, we take the results of race number 2, and we introduce a reverse grid, with the reversal position being drawn live from the commentary booth between 6th and 12th. We've had 4 different numbers in 4 rounds. Can we go the distance and get a 5th different number, given the fact statistically we should start to see a repeat number at this point in time? Well, we'll have to wait and see. Each driver should have 1 fast pair available in each race, and each race will conclude after either the allotted lap amount of 14 laps or 30 minutes, whichever expires first. And we are expecting the lap total to go first, given that amounts to approximately 20 to 21 minutes of racing. We should also remind you that we do have an independent race director stewarding the races for track limit infringements, plus the deployment of the safety car. And in terms of those pesky track limit infringements, they'll be distributed as follows: the penalties. The first and second warnings, there's no penalty, it's just a slap on the wrist. The third warning, it's a 5-second post-race time penalty that gets doubled to 10 on the 4th warning. On the 5th warning, you've earned yourself a drive-through penalty for your misdemeanours. Drive-through penalties must be served within 3 laps of being awarded, and all racing incidents shall be reviewed post-round. We also do have the success balance formula continue to be applied, given its success, and as we can see, applied on a race-by-race basis in the overall Prime and AM class category standings. And for qualifying in race 1, the success balance shall be applied based on the championship standings prior to the round. We update it for race 2 based on the finishing positions of race 1, and we rinse and repeat again for race 3 based on how race 2 played out. We have no newcomers on the grid, so we don't need to talk about the newcomer success balance rule today. And here is the table if you want to see all the success ballast values as would be applied. And of course, it does mean that Luciano Witvoet will take that maximum ballast of 56.1 kilograms into the opening qualifying and race 1 of the day. But still, that weight sometimes not always having as much effect as it's been expected to have, especially for our Audi RS3 drivers who seem to have the power to push past the weight, whereas conversely, the Honda Civic Type R drivers seem to really struggle with that extra weight in the car. But that's how it levels out the field in combination with the iRacing balance of performance. But without further ado, enough rules, regulation, everything in between. You're here for the racing, and so are we. And while we do look to circuit side, and we do see Conrad Cooler there making his way up towards Lodge Bend, and as he does so there in the all-new livered Hyundai Elantra N for Semper Racing, and we'll wish him all the best luck as he made the team switch today, and we look forward to seeing what he's going to be able to achieve as he heads towards the line there, albeit not without almost escorting himself into the pit lane, following one other drives into the pits, and that was, I believe, coming into the pits, none other than Alexander Paulik, his previous teammate. As he rolls his way around, well, we've got plenty of drivers out there at the moment, albeit we do have a grand total of 29 drivers expected to be on the grid as a minimum today, albeit we do look to a man who is very familiar with this circuit, and it is none other than Andrew Pike in the 57. And well, the one thing to keep in mind with Andrew Pike is the fact the Sim Racing Collective driver, he has taken a good number of wins in the NXTCC. He's yet to take a title, but he is one of those dark horses of the grid, and indeed both him and his teammate Tom Davidson both proving in their Honda Civic Type Rs this season really to be on some of the strongest pace we have seen all the way through their history in the NXTCC, with Andrew Pike being on the grid since, if my memory serves me correctly, since Season 2. Tom Davidson, meanwhile, been on the grid since Season 6. And will Davidson be more of a part-timer at that point, but for this season on the grid full-time. And, well, one thing that is definitely for certain is the fact that the two of them make an absolutely brilliant combination pair, and we look forward to seeing what they're going to be able to achieve over the course of the racing stakes. This is a circuit they typically do go strong at. But as we see Pike making his way towards the tower, we look from one Honda Civic Type R in the Pro category to one in the Prime category, and this is Lewis Delmont in the number 23. And it was he rolls his way at Knickerbrook corner there. Right now, the Prime class championship leader will be hoping that today he can continue that momentum. However, he has a lot of weight in the car, and that weight will hold him back to a particular degree. As we've mentioned only moments ago, the Honda Civic normally does struggle to a degree with the weight compared to its rivals, given the fact that this is a car that's very focused around its ability to outbrake everything and carry the best corner speed, particularly in low to medium speed corners. So you're looking second through to third gear. But when you put that weight in the car, what it ends up doing is essentially it really rubs on the front tyres, and it means you're carrying a lot more mass under braking, and well, getting that mass stopped as late as you normally would is where you suddenly have to peel the braking points back by a good few metres, and that's where the Honda really does get balanced out compared to its rivals, and that's why having weight in the Honda is one of the hardest things to manage. However, it's not to be said that it's not possible to win races where high amount of success ballast in the car. Indeed, we only need to look through previous seasons to see that happen. But with 1 minute left on the clock before we are going into the qualifying qualifying session. All the drivers absolutely set, itching and ready to go. And as they get themselves set, well, not too much to happen now. Before we do head on out there, we're not going to get a word with any of our drivers given the proximity we have to the qualifying session. We are only a minute away, so we're going to let our drivers lock in mentally at this point. We are devoid of AM class drivers today. We've only got 2 drivers on the grid, Marcel Fritsch and Mark Sykes. We do hope to see a couple more before we do go racing, but we will wait and see as to what will be. As all of our drivers get themselves set, well, it does mean that right now all the focus is going to be on trying to get things absolutely right in qualifying. So as you can see from the circuit images here, this is one of those circuits. So we look to the blimp camera where if you take Nick Clemens' iRacing Esports Honda, we'll get the fact that is practically occupying almost, I would say, half the road surface by itself. If you put another car alongside it, well, 2 wide, it's feasible, but you've got to show a lot of racing respect. 3 wide, you're not going to be able to do it at most corners of the circuit unless you're absolutely dialed in with your rivals and also you fancy lady luck in your chances. But right now, as our drivers all get themselves into qualifying, who's going to put luck aside and deal the goods to put themselves on pole? Let's find out, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for qualifying in round 5 of the championship. So as qualifying gets underway, we look to the YouTube chat and say hello to Racing Game Show, who says Wojciech Swierdowicz is watching live today, and something might tell me that might be Wojciech's YouTube account, and if so, well, I hope you're doing as best as you can do, Wojciech. I'm very glad to have you tuned in live with us today, and well, also I can imagine you'll be cheering on your teammates out there, none more so the new teammate of Conrad Kula. As we look to Luciano Witvoet, our overall championship leader, as he makes out the pit lane. Indeed, it is go, go, go for all of our drivers. Well, we said about the fact qualifying is going to be so important, but what exactly can we expect in this qualifying session? So first things first, out of our 4 cars that are available, the Honda Civic Type R FK8, the Audi RS3 LMS, the Hyundai Elantra N and the Hyundai Veloster N, which of the 4 cars can we expect to perhaps be the strongest? Well, on paper, we would expect it to be somewhere between the Hondas and the Elantras. Now, that's not to rule out the Veloster, its all-round nature being very strong. It's not to rule out the Audi with its very aggressive gearbox and the ability to accelerate well. But this is a highly technical circuit. You have a lot of corner sequences around here where you want to carry the speed and have the confidence that the front end is absolutely going to turn in on a diamond edge. And with that, the Honda is one of the strongest in that regard. The Elantra is a very strong car in its own right as well. It has the ability to turn in very effectively. The downside of the Elantras, of course, is that when you have a high circuit temperature, which, looking at our weather for today, what we can see is that we do have a temperature, track temperature at the moment, 28 degrees centigrade, and an ambient of 20 degrees centigrade at the moment. Well, the point being, as soon as you see that track temperature go above 40 degrees centigrade, that is where you start to see the pain come in when it comes to the Elantras. But the track temperature as it is currently, we may not see that as a risk factor here, and that could work out to the advantage of the Elantra drivers to be able to qualify well. On top of that, picking up a slipstream, is it going to be that pivotal? The short answer is it will only really benefit you in 2 major segments a lap. The first one is coming out of Island Hairpin all the way through to the Hislop Chicane, so run out of turn 5 in towards turns 6 and 7. That's not a very long run, and therefore it can be worth a tenth or 2. The other place where you want to pick up the toe, ideally, is coming out of Knickerbrook Corner and all the way through into Druids Bend, but then you have the problem of stumbling over your rival or your teammate as you make your way into Druids, and that can be worth another tenth in itself. So this is going to be one of those qualifying sessions where qualifying in clear air can be just as powerful as qualifying in dirty air with the slipstream. It will really come down to what our drivers are able to deliver. As we see Joseph Doble making his way out of the Island Hairpin there and building up the speed from turn 4 in towards 5, 6 and 7 he goes in the 0-1-1 machine. Well, right now for Joe, after a brilliant set of performances at Thruxton, particularly that podium in race number 1, where much more stable conditions say everyone will be on the slick tyre, he'll be wondering what else can he do today beyond what he was able to do previously. And the short answer is we've just got to keep nipping at it. As we do say hello there to Katie Kitty Eames, who's cheering on the Vrano drivers tonight of Russell Fowler and Marcel Fritsch. And for Russell Fowler, if you're wondering why he's not out on the circuit, well, he is one of many drivers who have picked up qualifying bans coming into this round based on instant points accrued at Thruxton, and there are limits, and when you do get to that limit you do end up with a qualifying ban first and foremost. Also Benjamin Gregory, and also we mentioned Adam Delwan earlier, the other one being Stuart Winus. They all have pit lane starts for race 1, and that is a qualifying ban added to the mix, and therefore they are not permitted to head out there. So they just have to watch, and they know they've got a lot of hard work to do from the back of the field in the first race of the day. But then again, it only takes a small instant to shuffle up the field right at the start, and we have in our previous visits to Oulton Park seen a number of major incidents, so never say say never, as they say. And well, we're not hoping an incident happens, but they'll be hoping that something happens to spread the field and bring them right into the hunt. But as we do say hello to K teams, we also do say hello to Welsh Boy 2012, who's cheering on Full Tilt v Motorsport with Boosted Motorsport, and says it should be an interesting race this evening. Most definitely we're expecting it to be quite interesting, because this is a circuit that always leads to very close door-to-door racing action. And well, the reason we refer to the Super Touring era, some of you may remember the infamous incident, I believe it was James Thompson's Honda Accord Type R in the mid-portion of the 90s. I want to say in the 1998 championship, that coming over the rise of Hilltop ended up getting propelled straight into the inside circuit barrier there, and that was when we really were in the peak of the Super Touring era, where it was elbows out and pretty much bumpers flying left, right and centre. And well, plenty of brilliant racing in that era, plenty of brilliant racing in the modern era as well. And after today, well, this coming weekend we will have the BTCC heading to Oulton Park Island in real life, and Mikey Doble out there giving it his all. Speaking of which, where is Mikey Doble in all this, I hear you ask? Well, here he is, the number 1 driver, defending champion, 4-time NXTCC champion. And well, after a dismal day at the Thruxton circuit in real life, after a great day of racing on the virtual circuit, he'll be hoping for a great day here again today, and really something to set him up going into the racing weekend. And well, the Hyundai Veloster driver right now yet to get a valid time on the board, but he is building himself up to a time. And intriguingly, he's decided to go out there and give himself plenty of clear space. The only driver he has behind him is, I believe, that's Sam Smith in the iRacing Esports, number 27 in the Honda. And, well, I think Smith here trying to capitalise on the pro driver, giving him a bit of a pace car to hunt and follow. It's not a bad idea to do, particularly if you can stay with him. It can enable you to learn the line. It can also enable you to pick up that toe and graft a better lap as a result of it. However, of course, he's playing the game of catch-up, and Mikey Doble, meanwhile, I don't think he'll be looking in his rearview mirror. He'll be looking in front of him as he comes across the timeline, and Mikey Doble's initial lap, 1 minute 28.477, puts him in 14th. Meanwhile, Smith, you can see there, 2 tenths faster on a 28.264, and that confirms our thoughts earlier that the slipstream around here is worth a couple of tenths at most, given the number of corners, and particularly the fact you don't really have too many long straights. It really is about corner exit speed here that makes the difference for overtakes. But Michael East, right now, he's looking quite quick out there as he follows on around Lewis Delmont, trying to work with the next-gen green driver in the JWM Motorsport Veloster. And as he heads towards the timeline here, what's he going to do as he bookends the midway Porsche's qualifying session, and he goes from 9th all the way up to 2nd there, 27.791, but immediately drops to 3rd as we see Tom Davidson, the Sim Racing Collective Honda driver, puts a 27.586 on the board, and Andrew Pike is only a 10th behind him. And well, the Sim Racing Collective are definitely coming out strong here, one of their favourite circuits, and right now it's the 42 and the 57 that could lock out that front row if things stay as they are for the remainder of the session. And of course, we've got a long way to go in qualifying, and with a long way to go, well, it's only fair that at this point we very shortly get ready to bring you an on-board lap with one of our drivers as they head on around to give you a sense of perspective. And well, we are going to look to our championship leader, Luciano Witvoet, in the Audi RS3 LMS, who's currently sat in 6th. He is on an improving lap at the moment, albeit I say that, where is he improving on that? In fact, he's not improving at all. This might be a bit more of a sighting lap to burn some fuel out, but let's jump on board then and go around for a flying lap for our championship leader of the Oulton Park Island circuit. So powering his way along towards turn number 1 as he heads into Old Hall Corner, braking nice on the outside there, nice and early, chuck the car into the apex and hold 4th gear and let it roll out wide. As he does so, now carrying all the speed into Denton's, through the right hand and downhill he descends into Cascades. Over the bump he goes, braking on the bump, not after it, otherwise the car will be ejected with understeer. Now his braking point, and Whitford just keeping it in track limits there, right on the ragged edge as he heads down towards the island hairpin. As he brings the car over to the left-hand side, you'll notice the circuit curves away from him, but he tucks the nose right in there, down to 2nd gear, pointing the nose in and using the front tyres to pull the car around the corner as now he builds up the speed, going over the hilltop and down towards the Hislop chicane. Looks to his left-hand side for his braking mark, and it will be at the 100-metre board. He goes onto the anchors, down from 5th, into 3rd gear, right into left here, taking plenty of apex with him. Bringing it over to the left-hand side to open up Knickerbrook Corner, and through the right-hander he comes, mounts the curb there as well, and onwards he goes now. This is where things start to speed up a bit more. Heading over the rise of Clay Hill and in towards Water Tower Corner. Through the left-hander he'll go, holding 5th gear and getting ready for Druids, and it's all about braking nice and late, let the car roll deep, straight line the first apex to come around on the 2nd apex, and as he exits out the corner now underneath the Warwick Bridge and in towards Lodge Bend. This is the final major corner of the circuit, breaking out the right-hander marker board, which is about 150 metres corner apex. You can see the depression in the road as you enter the corner, and as you exit, you go into a bigger depression, and that's flat out all the way over the rise here for Witvoet as he heads towards the timeline. And well, this lap he improved right at the start of the lap, but as he improved at the end of it, he was 8th, and he stays 8th, and that was a 28.451, and he's not quite far. He's quite far off of his previous best, a 27.92. So Witvoet right now still trying to dial in some time here, and things are not quite clicking the way he wants them to. But I can imagine here he's still got the opportunity to come into the pits and put on a fresh set of tyres, and when doing so with a much lighter car in terms of fuel, it's going to give him an opportunity. And if he was to put it on pole, well, that'd be sensational given the fact he's carrying the maximum success ballast of 56 kilograms. But then again, people can do it, and we have seen Wojciech Swierdajczyk on several occasions when he's been carrying maximum success ballast. He has been putting in provisional pole laps and even taken pole position despite the weight, and well, Witvoet will be trying to emulate that of the two-time champion. But coming to your AM class provisional pole sitter at the moment, this is Marcel Fritsch currently in 21st place. Only 2 AMs here today, but they are the 2 big names in the championship. Well, they were the big names before Thruxton, with Fritsch being your championship leader and Mark Sykes being the man who missed Thruxton. But he is back here today, and right now between the two of them, there's not too much daylight in terms of time on the circuit, and also regards to lap time, with Sykes being a 10th off of Fritsch, and as he cross line that time doesn't find a way to improve. What about Fritsch? Does he improve? As I look at my timing screen, and no, he does not. So they're both still trying to find out a bit of time out there as we head towards the final 5 minutes of the session. Ben Ultriers into the pit lane, and well, the car's being serviced there, and I think there's a bit of a queue there. The number 32 waiting to be pulled into its pit garage, and well, I can imagine that is going to be the number 32 of Reese Watt waiting a service, and he finally gets it in position as Ben Ultriers up on the jacks, comes down off of them, and that's a new set of tyres going on the car, and he'll make his way on out of there right now. And for Ultrier, as we look inside the cockpit, well, that focus is now definitely going to be on trying to put in a better lap here. Fresh tyres, they do take 2-3 laps to warm up at Oulton Park. Once he's got them warmed up, he will attack and look to try and move forward with that provisional pole sitter place in the Pro-Am class there. And he's only 1.5 tenths off the overall pole at the moment, and well, for Ultrier, he'll definitely be eager to try and keep ahead of Michael Lees, who is only 0.5 tenth off him. But for Oulton Motorsport, they've been doing very good this season across the board. They've had a bit of bad luck, but they've also had some great performances, both in the orange lobby, which you're seeing here today, and of course the blue lobby, which you'll see broadcasted tomorrow, albeit the racing's happening simultaneously as right now. But to avoid broadcast congestion for you guys and girls who may have to try and split your time between both, we of course schedule the blue lobby broadcast to be premiered tomorrow evening, so that way you don't have a clash. But in the blue lobby, we have had Mark Kent really delivering very well as an AM class driver. In fact, at one point, I believe even achieving an overall podium, and the very first driver to do so outside of a reverse grid setting. And what an achievement for Mark Kent. But as Ultrier heads on around, well, he'll be warming up those tyres as quickly as he can, and he will, after this lap plus the next one, probably have 1 or 2 laps in which to get a good job on the board. And well, Michael Lees, of course, is the man who's got the pressure after him, because he still needs to find 0.5 tenth in order to dethrone Ultrier from that 3rd place spot in the Pro-Am pole position. Still, at the very front of the field, we do have Tom Davidson and Andrew Pike. Well, they're both right now absolutely delivering out there. Neither one of them has improved since the last time we've looked. They have improved in certain sectors, but they haven't improved in terms of the overall time. And perhaps this circuit is now starting not to give any time back anymore, as we did see a brief excursion there for one of the RS Esports Hondas, and I believe that might have been the Honda of Sam Smith there. Well, no, that would not have been Smith. He's earlier on lap. That would have been... well, I believe it would have been Nick Clibbins having a bit lane near miss moment, and there is Clibbins now as he heads on around. But as he does so, he's still got a bit more to go. William Guthrie, well, Guthrie comes across the timeline, and as he does so in the, oh goodness me, that's the full Tilby Motorsport car. In fact, that was Guthrie going wide. I do apologise, I'm getting a little bit of livery blindness there. It happens every so often, and Guthrie making his way on down in towards the left-hander of Cascade and out of it. And we had the brief excursion at the Druids exit, where the idea is you want to go straight on if you are going to have an error. You do not want the rear of the car to step loose and send you around to the inside barrier, because that ends up in disaster. And I can tell you from a number of track days I've been on, ladies and gentlemen, you never want to be behind someone that goes wrong, so you've got to try and predict where they're going to end up going, and under race conditions it gets even more challenging. However, thankfully nobody in the barriers, whether they be real life or virtual so far, and as Guthrie winds his way on through the right into left here, well, for now at least, 2.5 tenths off of the pole sitter. Well, for Guthrie, that's not far off, but I think he wants to be right up there. He ideally would like to lock out the second row with his teammate Ultrier, because that will help Ben Ultrier feel a lot more comfortable with the Pro-Am pole position, because he should be able to break away. And for Guthrie, he can then go hunting after Davidson and Pike, given the fact he's got very little success ballast, much like them. But as our drivers continue onwards, we'll have to wait and see who is going to take pole position. With only 1.5 minutes left to go, Mark Sykes is yet to really find the time in order to be able to break in against Marcel Fritsch, with the 1/10 window still being what separates the two of them. And Sykes, they're not using all the width for the circuit coming out to Nickbrook Corner. Perhaps not as comfortable. We're letting the car run out wide there. And, well, it is a bit of a gamble there. Sometimes you don't always want to use all the track width, because remember, once you get the power down in a front-engine front-wheel drive touring car, understeer takes over, because the front wheels can only do so much turning at the same time as they can only do so much power deployment. Whereas if you're in a front engine rear wheel drive car, the front wheels do the turning, the rear wheels do the power deployments. The idea is there you can be a bit more aggressive on rotation. Really, you want to get all your rotation done and then blast the throttle. And right now Sykes definitely having to fight with that as he heads onto his final flying lap, and we jump on board here with the second place AM driver. So rolling his way into the opening corner, and as he does so, holding third gear very nicely there, really hooked up, going for Old Hall Bend, and now into Denton's he goes, brings the car over to the right here, up to fifth gear, braking early, chucks the car down 2 gears, and through a left-hander, taking plenty of apex there through Cascade, so that's what you want, and now flat out he'll go all the way past Lakeside and in towards the Island hairpin, but as he comes towards the braking zone here, braking early, car goes straight on, that's Gavin Gardner who decides to take a bit of an excursion. Sykes meanwhile down to first gear, building up the throttle again, using first to help rotate the Honda and also get the power down given its lack of acceleration. And as he makes his way down from the hilltop or into the braking zone, he gets ready to go here for his lap spin. Brakes quite early there, but you can see the speed he's carrying off the trail braking. So Sykes, very different braking approach in the Honda, being a bit early on the brakes but also gentler on the brakes. He tries to carry a lot more speed as he comes on down, I think, just trying to settle the nose and bring the weight forward more gradually compared to some of his fellow Honda drivers. We have seen the Hondas very snappy under last minute braking. And into Druids he goes, but takes a bit of a grassland turning, and that causes him to understeer. And what has been an absolutely lovely lap so far from Mark Sykes, where he was on a personal best through sectors 2, 3 and 4. Well, suddenly a lot of that improvement is going to be undone by that mistake at Druids Bend. Will stay on board for the remainder of the lap, but Sykes there really right now, I think he'll be kicking himself for that error and into the pits. He knows that he has thrown away a very good lap, and that could have been a lap that saw him take on Marcel Fritsch. But that's the way it goes sometimes in qualifying. A small mistake, but he's not too far behind. And, well, from him, as we do see Lee Horn here in the next-gen pink machine making his way out to Druids, well, they're rolling his way onwards and absolutely in the middle of the road to let the car gradually sit over to the left-hand side. Duncan Rise off camera's improved to 19th. That's a good performance from him, a 28.292, 8 thousandths faster than Alexander Paulik. And we see piling into the pits there. That is going to be Luciano Witvoet. He's decided enough's enough. Lee Horn moves to 9th there, right at the close. A 27.921. Lovely lap from him. And that puts him just inside the top 10. Ben Altria comes into the pit lane. He decides enough's enough. So long as he respects the pit entry limit, he'll be absolutely fine. Alex Meredith off camera moves up to 15th on a 28.066. Joe Doble moves up to 17th. Just squeezes his way ahead of Matthew Addy. And Nick Clearings will be the last driver to finish the qualifying lap. And, well, what about that? Just misses out on the top 10, but for Nick Clemens behind Sam Van Olst by only 16 thousandths. It's 11th place for Nick Clemens. A lovely final lap from him, and that puts him into 6th place in Pro-Am. But it looks though, ladies and gentlemen, it is a Sim Racing Collective lockout on the front row. Tom Davidson takes his first ever overall pole position in a qualifying session in his NXTCC career, and joining on the front row is Andrew Pike, who once again makes his way to the front row of the grid. Behind them, it's a Pro-Am pair with Ben Altria taking Pro-Am pole position in 3rd, and Michael Lees joining him on that 2nd row of the grid, and Lees had one of his finest qualifying performances since the season opener. Reese Watt as well, starting 5th as it currently stands, with William Guthrie alongside him. That is going to be a very tasty top 3 in the Pro-Am class. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's head to the grid and see how they all line up for the first of our 3 races for today. So as our drivers make the way onto the grid, this is how they'll line up for our opening race in round number 5 of Season 9 of the Next Gen Racing Touring Car Championship, powered by Doble Motorcycles and brought to you on iRacing from the Orange Lobby. Tom Davidson lines up on pole position for the Sim Racing Collective Esports. He's joined on the front row by his teammate Andrew Pike. What a performance from the pair of them. They'll be absolutely ecstatic about that. On row number 2, it is going to be a Ben Altria for Full Tilt Motorsport with Boosted Motorsport, and Michael Lees for JWM Motorsport there, and only half a tenth separating the two. I can imagine it's going to be elbows out into the opening couple of corners. Reese Watts just behind his teammate, only a further 300ths behind in qualifying, so great points from JWM to get 2 of their drivers into the top 5. William Guthrie, he completes the third row of the grid for Full Tilt Motorsport with Boosted Motorsport, starting 6th there, and behind him by only 400ths, Sam Smith for iRacing Esports, one of his finest qualifying performances of the season. Indeed, a lot of prams really going well at Oulton Park. It must be the circuit and how much they love it. Luciano Witvoet starts his day in 8th for World of Racing at STR Motorsports, and behind the Dutchman will be the Englishman Lee Horn for NXTGEN Pink, and Goldwyn Motorsports' his Belgian driver as Sam Van Olst. That completes your top 10. Outside the top 10, starting 11th, best of rest, it's Nick Clemens for iRacing Esports, with Conrad Kula 12th for Semper Racing. Lewis Delmont starts today 13th for NXTGEN Green, ahead of Doble Racing's Mikey Doble, who struggled in qualifying, but can he turn things around in race number 1? He normally does if he has a poor qualifying points. He normally moves up the field quite quickly. His brother and teammate Isaac Doble lines up just behind him in 15th, ahead of Alex Meredith for WSS Racing. And now on row number 9, it's the third double sim racing car of Joe Doble, ahead of Matthew Addy for WSS Racing. Duncan Rice for Goldwyn Motorsports and Alexander Paulik for World of Racing at STR Motorsports complete your top 20. And behind the German driver, it will be the Englishman of NXTGEN Pink's Gavin Gardner and Jamie Dory, his teammate, alongside. On row number 12, it'll be Marcel Fritschel and Polster for Verano Esports, head of Alan McCain for Iris Esports, with Mark Sykes II, the Yam car, starting 25th, WSS Racing, ahead of Adam Delmont for NXTGEN Green. The final full row of the grid will go to Stuart Winers for Track Scotland and Benjamin Gregory for Full Tilt Motorsport with Boosted Motorsport. And it'll be Russell Fowler starting 29th for Verano Esports, and that will be how your grid lines up. But that's how the grid in position, ladies and gentlemen. And remember, we do have pit lane starts for several drivers here today, and those pit lane starts in particular are going to be for Russell Fowler, Benjamin Gregory, Adam Delmont, who I have noticed is not on the grid. Oh, in fact, yes, he is on the grid. I do apologise because we did mention his name only moments ago. He's in the pit lane. I'm getting ahead of myself there. And also Stuart Winers. So we do have 4 drivers on a pit lane start, and will be 3 prams and the pro, and then the rest of the field will make its way into position. But we are not too far away from our first racer day. And for Tom Davidson, well, that is what it looks like looking out the front of the car. And remember, if you start in the front row, you're actually starting on a slight gradient. So you technically roll back on the start, and you've got to hold the clutch at a slightly different approach compared to those starting further behind. That makes starting on the front row at Oulton Park even more challenging. But if you get the launch right, it could be victory at the very end. Well, the grid is practically set. We're waiting for the last couple of cars, but once they are in position, we will all be good to go. And, well, alongside him, Andrew Pike there. It's a Sim Racing Collective 1-2. We don't see it too often, but when we do, it is absolutely smashing to see. And behind them, Ben Altrier and Michael Lees. Which one of the pair? And we lead in the pram class coming out to turn number 1. Indeed, over the full duration of the corners, we will see, no doubt about it. But good point there made by Racing Game Show. Guys with ballast are nowhere near the pace on this track. And indeed, Oulton Park definitely one where we are seeing, with the elevation changes and the number of instances where you are accelerating uphill from low speed, it's very punishing indeed. And that is why the highest placed driver with significant success ballast, where you have Luciano Witvoet, who is your championship leader, 56 kilograms of success ballast, have forced him to start in 8th place. He's given it everything, but of course after this race we throw out that success ballast and we reset it to wherever he finishes in race number 2 based on the success ballast position. So that will be in his mind, and that will be positive. But we are still just waiting for 1 or 2 cars in the pit lane to get in position. Well, as soon as I say that, the grid is set, ladies and gentlemen. Our drivers who need to start from the pits are there, and the lights are going on. And for the first time today in round number 5 of the championship, it is going to be lights out and away we go for 14 laps of racing here in the county of Cheshire. And the Sim Racing Collective here, Davidson and Pike, get a brilliant start of the line. Look at Lease behind, however, he's trying to look up the inside of Altrier into the opening corner. Too wide they enter, but Altrier lets the car run slightly wide. He uses the off-track space there to hold the position, and they will remain that way as they come down through Dentons and in towards Cascades. Further on back, a decent start there for Conrad Kula, already at 1 place, as we had William Guthrie lose several places. Guthrie, in fact, really struggled. He's dropped all the way down to 12th from his starting position of 6th place. It's been a nightmare start for him, but as the field comes down into the braking zone here for the hairpin, can we look to the blimp view? We can, but it's not a very good blimp view, and therefore it's a bit of a frustrating one, as we have had Russell Fowler take a huge excursion off circuit, and I believe he's rejoined. We apologise for our timing towel there being a little bit erroneous, but I think Fowler almost went straight on coming out of Cascades, and when the end hit the barrier and has made his way back onto the circuit. We'll get a replay of that when we can. But as the field segues its way on through Hislop chicane, well, 2 by 2 they go further back. Jamie Dory and Joe Doble fighting with Dory on the inside there, and well, their friends off the circuit, but rivals on the circuit, no doubt about it. And well, he has to tuck in behind there, as right now he just doesn't have the speed in that Hyundai Elantra. Alan McCain's right behind him, and McCain here trying to get involved as well as they make their way past the catch fence and in towards Druids Bend. Riding on board here, Alan McCain, the Irish esports driver, who are having to take a little bit of a peaceful approach here. Not the best qualifying performance from him, but he has gained a couple of places since the start, and right now just trying to wait for an opportunity here to follow the Pro Pack in front of him through the field and get a bit closer to the Pro-Ams further up the running order. Given the fact we have seen a big scattering of pros up and down the order as of qualifying. But after one lap of racing, it is Tom Davidson who leads by the best part of only 3 tenths over Andrew Pye. The Sim Racing Collective there continue to step away. Ben Aldrea leading Prime in third ahead of Michael Lees, with Reese Watt and Sam Smith completing your top 6. Luciano Witvoet, he's gained 1 place since the start, up to 7th with Lee Horn behind him. Sam Knowles and Nick Clemens completing your top 10, best of the rest in 11th. The man who lost the most places at the start, William Guthrie. What about our pit lane starters, I hear you ask? Well, Adam Delmont is already on the move. Oh, goodness me, what's happened to Delmont? I think he stepped wide at Cascades, and indeed he rejoins. Was he aided on his excursion? We're not quite sure. Russell Fowler had something similar happen to him on the open lap. We will get a replay of that when we can, but before we do that, well, let's take a look at some fighting. Because this is Mikey Doble versus Conrad Kula, and well, new paint on that Lancia, but still old rivalries ignite, and Doble up the inside there through his locks, gets the place back. He moves into 12th then and tries to hold on to it, but as we look back from the rear of the car, well, there's Kula, and Lewis Delmont is not too far behind, with Matthew Addy also trying to get into the mix here. And well, for Lewis Delmont, he'll want these two to stop fighting and push forward for the simple reason that if they continue to fight, they will bring Addy right close to the back of Lewis's car, and then Lewis Delmont will be worrying about trying to hold on to position. Remember, he's the championship leader, and he is carrying 32 kilograms of success ballast in his Honda Civic Type R. So therefore, right now, he is battling against the elements in a Honda that's heavily weighted, and you can see the impatience that's building on Lewis Delmont already, or perhaps frustration is the better adjective to describe, because of the fact that he needs to get these two out the way because they're not running on the pace he wants. But of course, they've got a lot of weight in their cars, and that is why they are running at such a slow pace compared to what he'd like them to do. And on top of that, when they're fighting, it only adds up. But a slow run out of Old Hall, and Doble here will have to go defensive through Denton's down into Cascade. No change at the moment. They will stay as they were, but Mikey Doble right now definitely trying to make a little bit more progress if he can. Well, I think progress is not going to be easy, but lap number 3 comes about, and as it does, well, Sam Van Olst here keeping Nick Clemens behind. As you can see, Guthrie just waiting in the wings. No real move in at the moment. Further back in the AM class battle, we've got 2 AM drivers right with each other. This is Sykes versus Fritsch. They're having a good little ding-dong, the Vrano esports machine. Of Fritsch, they're trying to keep ahead of its fellow Honda. And well, Sykes right now for WSS Sports as he charges his way over Hilltop. Well, he's thinking about a potential move here. Can he go for it? He thinks once, he thinks twice, but in the end, on the 3rd time, thinking, the angel on his shoulder says you're not close enough to go for the move, don't do it, and therefore he decides to back out. But definitely right now trying to tease out an opportunity. In fact, he's going to get one here for Nickelbrook. A slight tap on the rear of Richard's car. They'll be too wide as they head up the hill and coming over Old Clay and on towards Water Tower Corner. Well, this is where the road's going to narrow because he'll want to turn in. He puts a wheel onto the grass, but he avoids being taken to it. Too wide, they're going to Druids Bend. Sykes up the inside. It's a lovely move, but now will Fritsch get the cut back coming out of here? He gets the momentum certainly, but Sykes sees it coming and puts the car right in the middle of the road and says, no, you don't. And as they head in towards the Lodge Bend, we can see there Sykes has made the position count. Lovely move there for Mark Sykes, and moving into 1st place in the AM class, but 23rd overall, but held up. Marcel Fritsch now gets a better run coming out of Lodge. Over Deer leaping in towards Old Hall they go, and it's going to be Fritsch on the inside here. Too wide they come into the corner, but Sykes on the outside there, he's got the better run off the exit, and Alan McCain now is going to step into the fray. The prime driver here, he wants to try and get through this field to start in a better position for race number 2, but you can see Fritsch has to go slightly defensive because he doesn't want to lose the fight. So it's now McCain and Fritsch having to deal with a little bit of a tussle between each other, and Mark Sykes will be hoping they focus more on each other rather than him as they come to brake him. McCain gets a bit late on the brakes, looks the inside there. Fritsch sees it coming. There's been an instant just up the road, and I believe that is going to be one of the Goldwyn Motorsports car in contact with Isaac Doble. I think that's Duncan Rice and Isaac Doble have had it coming together, but Mark Sykes has been able to use this to his advantage, and Alan McCain's late dive has ended up putting himself ahead of Fritsch, with Stuart Winans coming on through as well, and Marcel Fritsch's son, he demoted 2 places, the price of a bit of late braking from the iRacing Esports Honda, and well, Marcel Fritsch at this point will be a little bit frustrated at that. However, he'll know that the 2 in front of him now will need to go pester Sykes, and that's what we'll be hoping for, given we've got plenty of race distance. Heading over the rise, and we ride on board here with Stuart Winans' car, the Track Scotland machine, the 61-9. It's got a lot of work to be done if it wants to try and get further up the order, given that Winans was in the top 3 of the Prime Championship coming into today. However, given the success balance and the fact he did not qualify, he was not permitted to qualify, he's going to do things in the pit lane, so therefore he's going to be up against it all the way through this racing evening. However, nice and close there to back of McCain. Can't quite get the power down he wants to. Very quick in that Elantra, and as we said before, this Elantra a very fast car in its own right, particularly over single lap pace. However, it's got a very different driving style compared to the Honda. The Honda is very all-in under braking. The Elantra, meanwhile, requires a much smoother approach, but it does get much better traction on corner exit if you are smooth with the throttle pedal. Now, rolling their way through Cascades corner, you can see they're much tighter on the entry to the corner and so on the exit as well. But the problem is that Honda just able to carry a couple miles an hour more speed for the apex, and therefore Winus, for all the speed he can take, he can't take enough there to beat the Honda of McCain. As they roll off and over the hilltop they'll rise when we look from the back of the field to the very front of it, and Tom Davidson continuing to run along with Andrew Pike giving him close company, and these two pulling away from Ultria, the Pram leader, who in turn has got a 1 second gap to Watt. Now as they head onwards, well, we are missing Michael Lees from this party. Lees has fallen back a little bit, and there you can see him in the Hyundai Veloster, and he's fallen behind Luciano Witvoet, and Sam Smith has moved in front as well. So I think there has been a little bit of an exchange. We'll try and understand what that exchange was in due course, but we have some replays coming up with regards to the opening few instants of the race, and we start with lap number 1, and what exactly happened, I believe, to none other than Russell Fowler. Well, this was Russell Fowler making his way down after the pit lane start. He was at the back of the field, heading into Cascades. Brakes a bit too late there. The rear of the car gets unsettled. It gets unstuck, and then it goes straight on and almost ends up making his way all the way to Hislop's Bend. Well, thankfully, he didn't and made his way back onto the circuit, but that was definitely a bit of a rallycross moment for him. A little bit later on lap number 2, this was Alan McCain, and well, at the time, he was chasing none other than Jamie Dory down in towards Cascades, and I suspect he's going to have a similar moment there. Gets squirrely one way, then the other, and well, thankfully is able to catch it a little bit sooner, but Cascades catching out many a driver, no doubt about it. And well, we also did have a big moment for Adam Delmont, and we'll keep an eye on that Delmont started on the pit lane here, but he had got clear of the Pram drives nice and early. Cascades also catch him out here, snapping one way then the other. Cascades catching every driver out on laps 1 and 2, but then we did have a bit of a more severe incident, and this was what happened to Duncan Rise and Isaac Doble, and this was on lap number 4 coming down towards the hairpin. Now, what exactly happened here? Well, Rise went into the braking zone. Isaac Doble in front and under braking. Oh, no, and he just gets it slightly late on the brakes. Isaac Doble happens to be in the wrong place at the right time. And for Duncan Rise, we take a look on board here. And, well, I think you are going to very quickly see very moment. I can imagine the words he may have been saying under his helmet, albeit we're not going to repeat them live on air. Goes onto the brakes, he's battling hard for position, just misses his braking point because he's busy battling. It's understandable, everybody does it. Isaac Doble will not be too happy about it, but I'm sure they'll talk about it afterwards, and that explains what's happened. I don't think there was any malice invent there from Duncan Rise, just battling so hard, and understandably, sometimes out-braking yourself, and it just happens to be another car right in head. And, well, to the stewards, of course, they will have to, if there is going to be a report to the stewards, they'll talk about it and probably dish out a penalty. However, it will be one of those ones that he just has to accept about it. And now that happens in the NXTCC, no doubt about it. But from that, as our drives continue onwards and we return to your live racing action, we'll still more to come. We haven't quite got a story as to what happened to Michael Lees. We believe it was an off-track that cost him quite a few places. We have had confirmation. In fact, he did have an excursion, and it was at Cascades on lap number 5. In fact, we do have a quick replay to explain. This was Lees from, at the time, second place in the Prime class. He was chasing after Ultria, and we've seen this once, we've seen it twice, and now we're going to see a third instance of it, where driver just loses the rear end off of the Cascades bump, and in the end, well, that was somewhere between what we saw from one driver earlier on and another, and well, bounced his way across the circuit. I'm amazed the suspension of that Velocity is still in one piece. But from the rallycross exploits and jauntiness of Michael Lees's Veloster to back to live pictures here. Well, no more replays for a time because we've got more fighting to come. And this is going to be at William Guthrie here, looking up the inside of Clibbins as they make contact. Oh, no! And, well, in the end, are they both able to survive it? I think they are, but it triggers off a chain reaction. And Clibbins in goes round, and Conrad Kula ends up trying to take to the escape route, which is the grass, but ends up getting perched alongside Clibbins' car. And, well, goodness me, a small tap there, and it all kicked off. And, well, I think Kula recognising you can't just pull straight onto the circuit given the race line and how tight it is, so he has to wait his turn. Clemens also waiting as he gets himself out of the grass, but a hugely frustrating moment. And from all that, we will get a replay of that when we can. I think that was an innocent tap coming out of Druids Bend. Well, from them, you can see the top two just running away 4 seconds back. Reese Watt here, he's found his way past Ultria. We'll get a replay of that when we can, but as they head up towards of the turn number 4, heading in towards the island hairpin. Well, right now, Watt is on course here to add another win to his cap, albeit he won't if he goes that deep, and here comes Ultrier back at him as they head over the rise, and Smith is also there. So Watt, who was leading by a small margin, now finds that lead reset, and Ben Ultrier is back into prime lead with Sam Smith there right now, having to play the game and keep everybody behind him, because they are creating a long queue of cars here in the battle for third place. And in fact, by my count, that is the best part of 10 cars all queuing up for third place here as they make the way out. And well, if so, Ultrier right now, he is a very popular man, and well, indeed he is popular down the paddock when they're not behind the wheels of these machines, but he's also a very popular man after the circuit right now, because everybody wants third place overall for him, and he doesn't want to give it to anybody as we look back from the rear over the lip spoiler. But charging onwards, and as we can see, that's going to be a move from Rhys White. It's going to require him to put 2 balls on the grass. That's bold, but Ultrier gives him the space to breathe in the end, and what right now, definitely trying to say to him, look, I want the place back, and I'm not asking for it. But Ultrier simply saying to him in return, well, you're going to have to find a bit of a more inventive way. Well, they get away with it in the end. These two, they're not unfamiliar with each other, given the fact they've been battling the Prime class for the best part of the last 6 seasons. And as they come charging on round through turn number 1 and in towards 2 and 3, well, right now, laps are starting to go away. We are deep inside the second half of this race, but with the queue of cars behind, well, Trier's just hoping he can get somebody to defend for him in terms of work with him. Change of foot at the front of the field. This is Andrew Pyatt versus Davidson. The two teammates swap places. No drama there whatsoever, and I think teamwork being the key word here. But from them, looking back to third, look at the long line of cars, and that is Mikey Doble coming in red hot like a homing missile, and well, doing so, they're absolutely making his target spot on, which was to get up the inside of Sam Van Olsen, disrupt Van Olsen, run through the hairpin, and well, Doble right now not able to make the move happen, but definitely starting to get into the Prime driver's head and trying to say to the number 92 Audi, look, I'm coming. You've got to expect this now into every major braking zone, and that's the last thing you want, is you want a seasoned veteran, the 4-time champion, really eyeing you up at this point and saying, I am taking that place off of you, and I'm not going to tell you when it's going to happen. It could happen any time. Now, Van Olsen, to be fair, he's been in some brilliant battles. He's also had the accolade in previous seasons of being one of the unluckiest drivers in NXTCC, particularly in his first couple of seasons where he was on course for many a Prime win, only for a late incident in a race or two to take that away, but luck is back on his side, it would seem, these days. We see Ultrier still having to keep Watt behind, and Watt they're cutting back, and then some, I think. And that's just about legal there. We'll give him that one, but that seems to be a very early cut back off the corner, and Ultrier right now looking left, looking right. Here comes Smith as well, as they head in towards turn 1. Onto lap 10 they go, and Sam Smith fancies these chances here, and this is brilliant racing between the trio, and well, all three of these drivers, they have fought each other for so long over the years, and as they come down the hill, well, Smith here we ride on board with, looking around the outside of Watt meanwhile on the inside of Ultrier. A little bit of rub there, but they make sure to back on the throttle so they don't turn each other around. There's respect given and taken, and as they head down towards the hairpin, you can see that Ultrier defending that inside line as much as possible. Smith watching on, looking around the outside, and it's Witvoet. You can see Witvoet down the rear of the left of the picture, and it's going to be Smith looking on the exit, where it's going to be a good run, because they come up the hill, it buys Ultrier time, but Smith now looking all the way down towards the chicane, albeit is he going to get the drag race on the Audi, and the answer is no, he's not, because that Audi's got the straight line speed, but the Honda's got it on the brakes, but Witvoet says, okay, don't mind if I do. Outside to inside there, and the overall championship leader coming into today, he makes up the plays. A lovely move there from Luciano Witvoet, and you can imagine now that for Sam Smith, he's going to be looking in his rearview mirrors, he's going to be finding Michael Lee simply saying, you remember me? I'd like to be back on the Prime podium, please. You can see a flash of lights from Smith. He's not happy with the way Witvoet's done it, but nothing illegal about that one from what we can tell. I think right now Smith just simply venting his frustration in the fact that he was battling with Watt and Ultrier, and now he's got to try and keep Lees behind. You can see he's immediately trying to come back at Witvoet in towards Lodge Bend. He's not going to get from that far back, even the brakes that Honda, otherwise there's going to be contact between the two of them. But it's understandable there why he's trying to poke his nose out, and he's trying to get into the head of the pro driver, but that's why he's a pro as Witvoet, because he doesn't let things like that get into his head whatsoever, not typically at least, unless the red mist descends. But on to another lap they go, and we have a change of position there through Denton's between Davidson and Pike. That definitely was a bit of an inventive way of swapping the places, and well, from them, oh no, that's not good. Mark Sykes is off into the grass there, and well, that's at the final major corner at Lodge Bend, and that releases the lead of the AM class back to Marcel Fritsch. Now, how exactly did he end up off the circuit is the big question, and well, the answer is here's a replay to explain. Now, this was coming down to the braking zone. He was at the time behind Russell Fowler, under braking, however. There's a tap on the rear of the car, and it sends Sykes straight on. So I think Fritsch misses braking zone in the concertina effect there in the slipstream, and Sykes just being escorted wide, but letting the car roll out there, 9 of the depression in the road, and not trying to do any dramatic steering work, otherwise he would lose his racing line. But Fritsch has backed off. You can see him there in the subsequent replay. Marcel Fritsch backing off on the start-finish straight. Great gentleman racing there, and will they carry on their battle? That's what we love to see, in the fact that drivers do readjust their places, typically in the NXTCC, when they can. And will that AM battle definitely carry on? You can see them there making the way over the hill. Well, after this one, they've got 3 more laps to go, and Fritsch close, but not quite close enough here to come back. And I think with the damage on the car, it might be a bit more of a bridge too far to climb. Up from them, let's come back to the top 10, and Michael Lees still battling with Smith. Smith looking around the outside to retake the place, with Lees getting it done at the start of this lap, but now he's going to try and close the door on Smith to hold on to third place in Pro-Am class. As they head across that line then onto lap 12, it's Lees and Smith separated by 2 tenths. Vanolst is 6.5 tenths behind, and Oulton Park a bit further up the road are running away with this. So you can see everyone now starting to run a bit wide out of turn number 1. I think they will be getting a bit of a warning from our race director with regards to those track limits. Albeit I can imagine that right now all these drivers continue to push each other onwards as much as possible, and in doing so they will be heading wide. The big question being asked there, what exactly has happened to Benjamin Gregory in everything? I believe he has had to, well, in the end he's had to come into the pit lane due to damage. I don't have anything to explain why, but what I do have the ability to explain there's William Guthrie going a bit deep, and that releasing Mikey Doble up his inside there. So Mikey Doble now up into 9th place as the drivers continue to push onwards. So just a small step wide at the hairpin, and that's how quickly you can lose the places. Lee Horn battling here with Lewis Delmont, and Delmont here trying to stop the rot of overall positions. And well, Horn back on his inside. They're coming through the second part of his laps. Into Nickelbrook they go. A small tap between the 2 of them, but Horn in the end survives the tap, and Lewis Delmont gives them the space to breathe. But here comes Joe Doble in return, and now Doble trying to make his way over the crest and around the outside. That's going to be the inside of Druids if he can stay there. It's easier said than done, but he is going to attempt it, and here comes Doble then, looking at it, and Delmont through the double right they go, and in the end he just about stays alongside as they exit. It's going to be a drag race down towards Lodge Bend. Which one of the 2 of them is going to come out on top here as they get into the braking zone? It is going to be Joe Doble on the inside. Matthew Addy is trying to get involved here. He wants to get ahead of Lewis Delmont. That's a prime position. That'll be 6th place in class. That could be changing hands any moment as we see Addy down the inside of the Sam Case's UK sponsored machine. Down towards turn 1 they come, onto the anchors, and it's going to be all in, but will it be all out for them? Well, it's going to be all out battling here. They're still side by side until Lewis Delmont gets the better exit and finally gets ahead. It's a brilliant fight in there, and Lewis Delmont putting in an absolutely stoic defence, rolling through cascades, and not easy to overcome, no doubt about it. But rolling onwards then, and from them we look back up to Luciano Witvoet, who battles here with Rhys Watt, who's trying to come back at him, and because of the simple reason that Watt wants to chase down Ultria, albeit this is going to be given confidence to the Full Tilt Motorsport driver in that Elantra, the 504, that if the 2 behind him continue to fight, then he may just be able to walk away with the lead of the Pro-Am class, and with it a return to an overall podium, which you don't see too often for Pro-Am drivers, but when you do, it's always a nice thing to see, particularly in race number 1. That's where it's a bit more of a rarity. Further back, let's not forget Alex Meredith here for the WSS Racing Machine, and he's having a bit of a fun run versus Jamie Dory, albeit there Dory holds him at bay for now as they come through Nickelbrook Corner. No change it would seem at this time, but anything can happen. It normally does before the checker flag. Looking further back to the AM class lead battle. They've got 1 more lap to settle this, but Marcel Fritsch still on the attack here as we ride on board. He's given chase as the Austrian driver for Verano Esports. Out of the right hander he comes, and as he does so, not quite the exit he wanted. The car stepping wide a little bit, and that might be due to the aero damage that he's picked up from that whack to the back of Sykes' car, whereby he hasn't got as much turning as he would like, and therefore this is one of those cars now that doesn't quite carry every mile per hour it would like out the corners. He's got to adjust his driving style. Albeit Druids Bend proving to be the better corner for him compared to Sykes. He does gain the 10th back into the braking zone. They go for Lodge. He's too far back here. He's just going to have to wait and watch. But as they head on through, we're on to the final lap, and here's your 2 leaders. It's the Sim Racing Collective pair of Davidson and Pike, and we're still working together, and we do have an 8.5 second gap before we do get to our next pack. Oh, goodness me, that was a little bit hairy, and I think that was a tap on the rear of Watt's car from Smith. Was they come through, the tap has worked, because that's going to be Whitfield on the inside of Ultria for 3rd place. Smith and Watt are exchanging places here, but look at this, that's a success. That didn't work because Ultria is able to out-drag the Audi over the hill and down. Well, they go too wide under braking here. They're going to rub paint all the way through Hislop's Bend. They show each other a great racing room, and therefore it's now 2-1 into Nickelbrook Corner. And well, for Whitfield, this is a 3rd place that he wants to come his way. Ultria wants to keep the pro drive between him and the Pro-Am pack, because here comes Watt, here comes Smith, here comes Vanolst, here comes Lees. They're all queuing up and getting ready to attack. Well, through into Druids they go. it's going to be 2 by 2 by 2 here. The elbows are getting out. It's getting very tasty. It's getting very testy between them. And Oulton is still on the outside line. Well, Witvoet gets off road, but we'll have to come back to that in a second, ladies and gentlemen, because the checker flag is waving. And that can only mean one thing. It's going to be the end of race number 1. And Tom Davidson and Andrew Pyatt make it a 1-2 for the Sim Racing Collective. But what about 10 seconds behind? Well, here's Luciano Witvoet. And Rd5 has found his way through. And it looks so here it's going to be a drag race to line. Who's going to finish where? Witvoet takes third ahead of Rd5, who's your prime winner. Sam Van Olst is 5th ahead of Ben Oulton. Michael Lee 7th ahead of Sam Smith, who ends up in the barriers, but he has finished 5th on the road in the prime class. William Guthrie finishes 9th ahead of Mikey Doble, who rounds off the top 10. Lee Horn, Joseph Doble, Lewis Delmont, Matthew Addy and Alexander Paulik, they complete your top 15. Lewis Delmont fend off Matthew Addy then, doing a great job in doing so all the way to the finish. And we do have it in the AM battle. Mark Sykes holding off the attack from Marcel Fritsch to take AM victory there, 23rd on the road, but winner in class. And a great little battle between them and some great gentlemanly racing between them, particularly when it did go wrong. We've still got a couple of drivers to finish their races, including Isaac Doble as he makes his way towards the line. Albeit he's got a little bit of time before he does so. And coming out of the right-hander there of Druids Bend. And well, we will be getting a replay shortly of what exactly happened right at the end there between Luciano Witvoet, Rd5, Sam Van Olst, Ben Oulton, Michael Lees and Sam Smith, because there was a lot to dissect. But understandably, we do need to show your race a winner as a priority when they come across the line. But here is Isaac Doble then taking 25th after that shunt with Duncan Morais. We can understand the reason why he's finishing so far down. Morais just behind him, but those will be your last lead lap finishers. But let's take a look back at what exactly happened between Watt and Company as we do get that replay of the final lap. And what a final lap it was. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. So this was at the starter lap, essentially, coming down in towards the island hairpin, and you'll notice that contact initially between Watt and Smith. Now, through the braking zone of Island, Watt going deep as a result of that initial tap, but then you can see trying to come back, Smith battling with him. However, over the crest of the hill, this is where things started to get dicey because Oulton and Witvoet, they were side by side coming down to Hislop's Bend. Now, absolutely fair racing between them here. And in fact, Witvoet just enough on the inside there to contest the space. Oulton giving him the racing room, making the way for Hislop's Bend, then to Knickebrook Corner. Still too wide at this point, and still more too wide to come as they made the way out. You'll notice the Audi, despite the weight in it, able to match the run of the Elantra up the rise here, through Clay Hill and in towards Tower. But through the left and into the right they came. This is where things started to go wrong for Oulton. On the outside of Druid, well, they survived it together, and that's impressive in itself. But Watt now was able to get on the inside here, coming onto the Warwick Bridge, and Smith pushing along through there into the braking zone they went then for Lodge Bend. And as they came on down, a tap there from Watt to the side of Oulton's car. And well, then Sam Smith being catapulted one way, then the other, battling side by side, fighting himself 3 wide there between himself and Guthrie. And also, I believe, I'm trying to see whose car, I think that was Michael Lees, and in the end, a final tap there, sending Smith into the barrier. Couldn't quite see who gave him the tap. But goodness me, that's how it all ended. A dramatic end to their race, but also great racing at where it's due. But as we come back to your live racing pictures, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's time we take a look at some race results, don't you? And here they are, subject to any steward's inquiries. So after an absolutely close quarters race number 1 of the day for round number 5 of the Next Gen Racing Touring Car Championship Season 9, as brought to you from the Orange Lobby, Tom Davidson, your winner. And I believe, unless I'm mistaken, that is his second only overall win. It may actually be his first for the Sim Racing Collective Esports. I would need to double check, but that is going to be one of a limited number of wins for him. However, it's a 1-2. The first 1-2 of the season, and for several seasons for the Sim Racing Collective Esports, with Andrew Pyatt there finishing in second place, just behind, 2.5 tenths off. In third, Luciano Witvoet having to fight hard, but fighting his way through from an 8th place start to a 3rd place finish. A World of Racing with STR Motorsports, and that is a big result when it comes to championship points, given the ballast in that car. From the Dutchman, it was then the Englishman of JWM Motorsports, Rd5, who made it 4th on the road, but for him, Pro-Am victory and a hard-earned one in the Audi RS3, head of Sam Van Olst, run-up in Prime class and rounded after the top 5 for Goldwing Motorsports. Ben Oulton having to settle for 3rd in class in the end, but when he looks back on it, maybe a little bit heated at the moment, but I'm sure the full Tilt V Motorsport with boosted Motorsport driver will look back and think what a brilliant round of racing that was, ahead of Michael Lees for JWM Motorsport and Sam Smith in the end, settling for 5th in class, 8th on the road for iRacing Esports. William Guthrie for Full Tilt V Motorsport, Boosted Motorsport, and Mikey Doble for Double Sim Racing rounded off your top 10, with Guthrie falling down the ranks but fighting his way back up as much as he could, and Mikey Doble making some gradual progress, 4 places gained, and only has a small amount of success ballast going into race number 2. Lee Horn was best of the rest in 11th for Next Gen Pink, ahead of Joe Doble for Doble Sim Racing, who gained 5 places on the road. Brilliant job from him. Lewis Delmont holding on to 6th place place in the Pro-Am class for NXTGEN Green ahead of WSS Racing's Matthew Addy, but what a tussle between them over the distance, and your top 15 was rounded out by Alexander Paulik for World of Racing at STR Motorsports. Gavin Garner was 16th ahead of Jamie Dury, the two teammates for NXTGEN Pink being followed up by WSS Racing's Alex Meredith, then Track Scotland's Stuart Wyness, and NXTGEN Green's Adam Delman who completed your top 20. Outside the top 20, Alan McCain was 21st ahead of Russell Fowler, with both drivers having a difficult race one, and Russell Fowler having to start from the pit lane and make his way up the order as best he could. Mark Sykes took AM victory, 23rd on the road for WSS Racing ahead of Rhino Esports' Marcel Fritsch. Great racing between them, we expect plenty more in race 2. And Isaac Doble and Duncan Rice completed your lead lap finishers. In 27th, 2 laps down, Conrad Kula for Sempra Racing. It was 4 laps down to Benjamin Gregory for Full Tilt Motorsport, Boosted Motorsport. We're not quite sure what's happened to him, but we do know he's had to come into the pits multiple times. Perhaps there was a technical issue. And then last but not least, Nick Clibbins retiring 7 laps in the end, and the iRacing Esports driver will be classified as a non-finisher. But that was race number 1 of the day, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, there's plenty more races to come because we've got 2 more on the schedule for today, and we'll be back in approximately 10 to 15 minutes time for the build up to race number 2. Another 14-lap thriller, but of course it will be as they finish from race number 1 is how they'll line up on the grid, and we'll see the success bus shaking on the round. We'll stir the pot and we'll go again, and could we see the Sim Racing Collective make it a 1-2, 2 out of 2? Well, we'll be back then for that. But before we do come back, ladies and gentlemen, of course, we head to a break. We'll word from our title sponsor for this season, and that is Doble Motorcycles. We will see you very shortly. Speaking of Mikey Doble Racing, if you'd like to support Mikey as he pushes it to the limit out on track, you can do so by following the Mikey Doble Racing Facebook page as seen on screen. Additionally, if you want to represent the 88 Army at a BTCC weekend, Mikey Doble Racing has some fantastic merchandise available just for you, as may be found either via the Mikey Doble Racing Facebook page or alternatively in the Doble Motorcycles store at dobledirect.co.uk. Don't miss out on being a part of the 88 Army today. And we are back once again, ladies and gentlemen, for the second of our races today in round 5 of Season 9 of the Next Gen Racing Touring Car Championship, and you're tuning into Orange Lobby. Goodness me, race number 1, well, apart from our 2 runaway leaders, it was absolutely nip and tuck in the battle from 3rd all the way in the end to 14th place over the race distance. Indeed, absolutely unpredictable all the way through, but the one driver who you could argue came off the worst at the end for it all was the man who was really leading the long traffic jammer cars. That was Ben Altrier all the way through that race until the very end, where a little bit of a move from Luciano Witvoet saw Altrier elbowed out wide, and as a result lose a couple more places. Still a 3rd place in the Prime class, no doubt about it. And in fact, what we're going to try and do is get a word from him very shortly to hear his thoughts on what was a brilliant race, albeit it didn't quite end the way he wanted it to, no doubt about that. But something tells me I think he enjoyed himself all the same. And we'll just wait for him to clear this corner here of Lodge Bend, and then we'll try to get a patch through to the car. Well, as we do, ladies and gentlemen, give us a brief moment and let's see if we can get a word from him. Ben, have you got time for a quick word?
Yeah, sure, mate. Always got time for you.
Ben, an absolutely crazy race one. I mean, if we were to have our own equivalent of the Formula 1 Truly train, you created it for the best part of 13 and a half laps, 11 cars parked behind you. I mean, that was intense. Not the way you wanted it to end, but surely you had a lot of fun out there.
Oh, that was a lot of fun. To be honest, it was tough. I picked up front left damage on one of the tire bales, and that was costing me quite heavily on some of the fast-paced right-handers.
I see. Well, some damage picked up, but that only explains why you weren't able to pull away in the end. But still, brilliant defensive driving. You start 6th for this next race. Can we expect you to be going for the win in this one, or is it about consolidating the podium?
Yeah, I'm going to be trying to push further forward. I think I've got the pace to do it. Just need to not pick up any damage.
Well, Ben, we wish you the best luck with it, and we'll see you at the checker flag come the end of race number 2.
Thank you, mate.
So they're hearing it from Ben Altrier, who are very busy focusing, understandably, on driving around the circuit, but something we didn't know there about the damage he had on the car, and that explaining why he just wasn't able to break away. But coming from one man who had some damage and in the end didn't quite get the result he wanted, to a man who definitely got the result he was hunting for, let's see if we can get a word here with Rd5 as we do jump on board here, and we're in a very brief moment. I think we might be getting a patch through to the car. Give us a brief moment. And as we do, Reese, you got time for a quick word?
I do. How you doing?
Very good, thank you, Reese. But more importantly, how you doing? That was a brilliant prime win, albeit you had to dig incredibly deep to take it.
Yeah, it's just got off a call with Ben. He was suffering with damaged steering, so it helped me get on the back of him quite a bit. But yeah, it was a tough track to get past. Not the widest. So yeah, I just tried to take the opportunity when I could. And it went well. Worked out. Great battling.
Oh, 100%. The only thing is now, you head into race 2, you're going to be starting 4th on the grid, but you carry the maximum prime weight. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, speaking to Mikey, teammate, he's had weight for the last race and he says he struggled, so I'm just trying to get a few laps in now, just try and get a feel for it. So hopefully we can. It's difficult to pass here, so hopefully we can retain that 4th position, but we'll see how it goes.
Well, Reese, we wish you the best of luck with race number 2. We'll leave you to it and see you at the checker flag. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, cheers, boy.
So speaking there to Rd5, ladies and gentlemen, 2 similar perspectives on a great race one between 2 prime legends, no doubt about it. Ben Altrier and Rd5 we just heard from there. And, well, talking about the fact that he's now learning upon the experience from his teammate Michael Lees, who had the weight that Rd5 will now take into this race. And you can imagine, well, it's going to be head down and give it his all. But will he be able to make it 2 class wins out of 2? Well, there's only one way we're going to find out, ladies and gentlemen. We've got to go racing. It's time then for race number 2. So as our drivers make their way onto the grid, this is how they line up for our second race of the day. They line up as they finished race number 1, and so it will be a Sim Racing Collective Esports lockout on the front row with Tom Davidson and Andrew Pint line up together. They're going to be looking to make it a 1-2 once again, but they've got a lot of weight in the car, and one man who shed a small amount of weight, he shed the best part of 15 kilograms, is your third place starter, Luciano Witvoet for World of Racing with STR Motorsports. From the Dutchman, it'll then be the Englishman, your pro and pole sitter of Rd5, who we heard from only moments ago for JWM Motorsport. He'll be in the company just behind him on row 3 of Sam Van Ols for Goldwyn Motorsports and Ben Altrier for Full Tilt V Motorsport with Boosted Motorsport. Michael Lees starts this one in 7th for JWM Motorsport, and Sam Smith for iRacing Esports. They got the car out the barrier, they've done the repair work, he starts 8th. William Guthrie for Full Tilt V Motorsport with Boosted Motorsport starts 9th, and Mikey Doble for Doble Sim Racing completes your top 10. On 11th, it will be Lee Horn for NXTGEN Pink ahead of Doble Sim Race's Joe Doble, who'll be looking to make a bit more progress in this one. Lewis Stillman lines up 13th for NXTGEN Green ahead of Matthew Addy for WSS Racing. And then we have Alexander Paulik, 15th on the grid, a struggle in race number 1 it would seem for the World of Racing at STR Motorsports. Have they been able to find a way to get a bit more pace out of the car this time around? We will wait and see. If not, he'll have NXTGEN Pink's Gavin Garner alongside him from 16th, looking to pounce. Jamie Dorey lines up 17th behind his teammate, and he's in the company of WSS Racing's Alex Meredith. Had a little scrap with him towards the end of race number 1. Will we see more of that in the second race of the day? Or could we see Stuart Winus, who started from the pit lane in race 1, made a lot of progress to 19th? Could the Scotland driver for Track Scotland move forward? Because Adam Delmont for NXTGEN Green will also try to do the same, starting 20th. 21st on the grid on row number 11, it's Alan McCain for iRacing Esports, head of Rhino Esports' Russell Fowler. And then Mark Sykes, your AM pole sitter, starts 23rd for WSS Racing, ahead of Marcel Fritsch for Rhino Esports. With Isaac Doble and Duncan Rise on row number 13, ahead of Conrad Kula and Benjamin Gregory. And then last but not least, starting 29th, Nick Clemens for iRacing Esports. Well, that is the grid, ladies and gentlemen. They're all in position and they're all absolutely set and ready to go. As all of our drivers sit there and absolutely itch at the bit to go racing. Well, 29 cars out there. In fact, 30 cars out there now. We have had Matthew Jordan make his way to the grid. We've just had that announced that he is there right at the back, which is fantastic to see. So we've got 30 entrants here, albeit slightly out of position, given the fact he will be starting all the way from the back. But that's fantastic. And we've got 3 AMs now. And well, Matthew Jordan's got it all to do from the very back. However, you can imagine that he'll be feeling quite confident that he can make it work, given his previous round results. Looking further up the order to Stuart Winus' car. Well, the other Track Scotland machine of Kieran Smart's not here today, and he's in the YouTube chat saying on holiday, but still here cheering on Stuart Winus of Track Scotland. And great to have you tuned in, Kieran, and I hope you're having a great holiday away, and we look forward to seeing you back on the grid in the near future. And we also do say hello there to Handsome Stu, who says, let's see Fisher on pole from earlier on. We did miss that message, but I hope you're doing well, Handsome Stu. And well, I can imagine that the Sim Racing Collective fan group will definitely be going ecstatic for their performance in race number 1. But can they make it 2 out of 2 then in race number 2? Well, the lights are going on, and after the grand total of 5 red lights, it's going to be a very quick one. It's lights and away we go as quick as a flash. And Davidson and Pike there both get reasonable starts once again. And behind them, Luciano Witvoet, he gets a lot of wheel spin. However, Reese Watt is on the inside of him into the opening corner, and Watt may be moving to 3rd. Side by side they come out of the corner. There's been an instant further back, I believe. We'll have to investigate what's happened there shortly. So I think Kula, Gregory and Fritsch have all had to come in together, and if so, say it's not so, but the rest of the field are safely on through. Albeit all three, they're very sideways on entry into Cascade. However, he's been able to survive it as Alexander Paulik in the rather interesting liveried World of Racing car with its black and white premise. Well, they all stay as they are, and Paulik not able to make progress. They all come down the anchors. It's nose to tail there, a few bumps and scrapes, but they get away with that. But exiting the island hairpin, and well, I believe that might be Gavin Garner who's made his way forward as Jamie Dory a bit further back. Well, he got elbowed out there and battling with Stuart Winus as they head down towards his lops. But still more to come as Alan McCain and Duncan Razor side by side here under braking. And with the South African driver here trying to stay one step ahead, but with the fact it's the right into left-hander, it's McCain who gets the position. As we can see there, Nick Clibbins, well, he makes his way past Mark Sykes, and Matthew Jordan is already up into 26th. He's looking for the move on the AM leader here as they come up the rise. Goodness me, Matthew Jordan, well, he may have missed race number 1, but this is not slowing him down. He's going to go around the outside to the inside into Druids Bend, and that could be the AM lead changing hands. Yes, it is, and Matthew Jordan takes the AM lead for NXTGEN Pink. A lovely move there. Sykes is going to try and come back at him here, but he has got the success ballast in the car, the 25 kilograms, and that may prevent him from getting the counter attack here, even under brake. And Jordan's able to outbrake him, and Matthew Jordan now surely will run away as Isaac Doble also goes around the outside of the AM Race 1 winner. But after one lap of racing, it is Tom Davidson who leads still for the Sim Racing Collective ahead of teammate Andrew Pike. In third, it's Luciano Witvoet who's making quick progress. Reese Watch your prime leader in fourth, Sam Olst in fifth, Michael Lees in sixth, Mikey Doble seventh, Lee Horn in eighth, followed by Lewis Delmont in ninth, and Sam Smith rounds off your top 10. But look here, Lee Horn now starting to create a bit of a buffer to the rest of the field, and as they head down towards the island hairpin this time, well, the top 7 definitely now squeaking off into the distance, and Horn is trying to keep everybody else at bay as Lewis Delmont there under pressure from a Sam Smith who backed out of there. I thought Smith would have gone for under braking. Perhaps Sam Smith here figured out the bigger picture and the fact that after the shunt in race number 1, that Rhino just wants to settle down and gradually build up this race. He doesn't need to force the moves, and it makes sense, to be fair. Who could blame him? Joe Doble, meanwhile, well, he's not got patience on his stride because he goes round the outside there of Ultria in towards the second bar. His hops is a lovely move from Joe Doble, and he moves up into 12th place here. And then the car that's got a lot less weight in it now, he's definitely picking up the places. As further on back, it's a freeway scramble here. Oh no! And that's Russell Fowler sideways off the road into almost the barrier, not quite, but Russell Fowler being turned across the front there, I believe, of Alan McCain's car, unless I'm mistaken. And as he brings it back together now, Russell Fowler's got it all to do again. It's a grand reset, and not a happy one at that, as we've also got Duncan Ray's there with a wounded car. He's returned from the grass, and as he does so, I have to try and get a replay of what exactly's happened between them very shortly. But as they bring it on back, well, meanwhile, we'll look to Mikey Doble, who's got Michael Lees right behind him. The battle of the two Michaels here, and we're rolling the way through turn number 1. The number 1 driver here in terms of his door number, well, he's now trying to chase down Sam Van Olst. Lees will follow him as much as possible, and I think Lees is going to play the game of follow the leader here. 9, it will cost him a lot of time to fight with Doble, but in turn he will gain a lot of time if he works with one of the leading contenders in the overall Drivers' Championship. But rolling off the apex there, and out of Cascades, we can see Lewis Delmont, meanwhile, go to the back of Lee Horn, and Delmont is now starting to build up some momentum. Sam Smith, a second behind, is having to look more rearwards than forwards, and you can see Guthrie, Joe Doble, Altria, Delmont, as in Adam Delmont, and Alexander Paulik are all joining a long queue here behind Sam Smith. So it does seem as though Smith's starting to struggle a little bit in the early stage of this race. Could it be a sign he's perhaps not switched the tyres on as quickly as he'd like to? We will have to see, as we do say hello in the YouTube chat there to Leeds Gal 46, cheering on the Delmont family and the Next Gen Green team. And well, right now, Adam Delmont just trying to pick his places up, and after a race 1 where he ends up in 20th, and this one up to 14th already, he carries on this way. If he can get into the top 12, he will give himself a statistical chance of being in that reverse grid pool. But from them, as we look back here to 2 wide, and that is Alex Meredith being marshalled up onto the apex curb there of Watertown. You don't normally ride it given how high it is, and Jamie Dory side by side with him, and well, Jamie Dory at one point being Alex's mentor, and I believe they still do have that relationship, so therefore this is going to get very dicey. It is going to be Master versus Padawan here, and the Master trying to put one over his Padawan learner at the moment, as Isaac Doble missing a front bumper, where he's still fighting there, and Isaac Doble involved in a start line incident. Want to understand what happened? We have got the replay on cue for that, I believe, as it's 3 wide down into Old Hall corner, but Isaac Doble holding McCain and Clibbins behind as the Irish esports pair. They try and negotiate each other here, and everybody queuing up behind the battle there between Dory and Isaac Doble, as we have lost in that run of the field. We've lost Alex Meredith, who is in fact fallen down a bit further there, given the fact he was elbowed out, and now he's got to try and find his way back into the hunt when he can. Although that's easier said than done. We've also lost Gavin Garner, who's in the pit lane with repair work to the car. We'll get a story on that when we can. Duncan Rise up the inside of Meredith, sees the doors open and says, why not go for it? And Meredith sees the space and notes the fact that he needs to give it, given that Moreza has made it to the apex of the corner. And well, now in the battle of the Veloster versus the Honda will just out-drag the Veloster to a degree into that braking zone. They go for his hops then, and that's the change. And Mark Sykes on the back of this is just watching, and 9 that Matthew Jordan is pulling away in the AN lead in amongst all this pack of cars. As they come onwards then towards the second half of the lap, we look to Reese Watt, and we ride on board looking back from the rear of the Pram leader, and he's currently 4th in class. Well, not 4th in class, 4th overall, leader in class. He's got Sam Van Olst, his main rival, right behind, with Mikey Doble then splitting the rest of the Pram field from him. And well, for Watt right now, given the fact he's got all the weight in the car, he'll be just hoping that Audi on Audi here, Van Olst has a little bit of weight by comparison, but Watt may just be able to pull away gradually if he's able to keep his head down. However, it's easier said than done, and remember the success pass has an initial effect, but it also increases the rate of tyre degradation over those front tyres, and it means that later on in the race, whereas the tyres might start to drop off normally in the final 3 to 4 laps if you've been pushing them hard, suddenly by the midpoint of the race, particularly when you've got 30 plus kilograms of success bars, that is when you start to really feel the pain in the mid stage of the race, and you have to be very protective of the tyre compound. But in towards the right hand they go, and as they do, no change at the moment, but what you can see is that Mikey Doble is now starting to threaten some pressure here as they come out of the hairpin. The versus Vernold. Lee Horn are still there with him. Keep your eyes up for Lee Horn, by the way, in the fact that Lee Horn is one of those drivers who does come up through the field very gradually over race distance if he's not able to make a big impression in qualifying. And that's why Lee Horn has got a reputation of, whilst he might be one of the more senior drivers on the grid in terms of his age, albeit I'm not going to disclose it, I can tell you he's very youthful by comparison with his age, and also he is one of those drivers who started his career in the lower echelon of the Pro-Am class, and we only have the 2 classes, but he has made his way to Pro, he has taken overall wins and overall pole positions with it, and he really is one of those drivers who you can never count out no matter where he starts on a given race day, and that's why he's in the top 10 right now, looking to put on more pressure. Having started length, he's in 8th, and I suspect he fancies his chances at top 5 here, given how close the running field is in his traditional Honda Civic Type R. Across the line they go, on to lap 6 they'll turn, and from them we look back to Russell Fowler, who after his excursion coming out of Knickerbrook, where he takes the place of Mark Sykes there, moves up to 23rd. Fowler's got a long way to go to his next target of Duncan Rise. You can see here just making his way on past our static cameraman, and Rise right now continues to push after Jordan and, more importantly, McCain and Clibbins. Speaking of them, well, they're still nose to tail together, the 2 teammates, and Jordan, the AM leader, watching on from behind and harassing them right now, particularly Alan McCain. I think McCain would like to break away if he can, but I don't think that's going to be easily done. But from that, we need to take a look back at some incidents at the start of the race, and here's a replay to explain the Fritsch, Kula and Gregory incident, and this was lights on the way they went, and I believe that was Duncan Rice going around the outside, and oh, goodness me, and well, that was Marcel Fritsch being turned one way and collecting both Gregory and Kula. Can we get an on board from Marcel Fritsch's core to explain what happened there? We can. Let's just listen in. So very slow start on the outside to the inside of the road. It gets tapped there by Carney's inside. I believe that was the Goldwing Motorsports car that gave him the tap on the rear left quarter panel. And that's what sent him on around. So a frustrating start for all 3 involved. A nightmare start as well. We did then subsequently have a bit of drama for Gavin Gardner on lap number 2. And for Gardner, this was coming down towards Knickerbrook. This put him a long way down the running order. And what exactly happened here is the question. Oh, going to be a big shunt on the rear and to the side as well. And Gavin Gardner's Audi in a very unfit state to race at that point. So that sent his race on backwards. We also did have a bit of a moment for Matthew Addy a little bit later on lap number 4. This was Addy versus Stuart Winus coming in towards Druids Bend. What exactly happened here? Took a lot of apex curve through Tower Corner, Winus on the inside. However, Addy just went deep, went very deep, and the car in the end just gradually escorting itself outwards, but able to avoid going to the barrier. But shortly afterwards, he had to rejoin after a long trip around. And we've also had a bit of a moment for Alex Meredith, albeit I believe we haven't quite called that on camera. So therefore, those are the big incidents that we have caught on camera over the opening half of this race, but we've still got plenty more race to go. And in all of this, well, in the meantime, we have had a change of second place man, because Andrew Pike has been passed by Luciano Witvoet. And in terms of how that move happened, it happened on lap number 4. And, well, we will hold the phone there because Sam Van Olst, oh, no, that's very sideways there for Sam Van Olst. Contact with Mikey Doble by looks of things. And Van Olst has gone on around there, battling hard with the Pro driver, and the Pro-Am has come off the worst of the 2 of them. And we'll see what exactly caused that in short order. But as we do see here, Luciano Witvoet trying to put pressure on Davidson. Davidson staying in control at the moment as we look back from the rear of the leading machine. The Sim Racing Collective Esports Honda here knows it's got all the weight it's carrying, and we're looking from one way to the other. We can note that Witvoet right now very eager to get on through, given the fact he's got a bit more pace in the tank in that Audi RS3, and well, if he can clear Davidson, he may just be able to run away with this race and run off into the distance for victory. He's got Pike only half a second behind, and if Pike can get close enough, he will try to help out Davidson. You can understand that, but Tom is no stranger to having to go defensive. He's a very strong racing driver in terms of his batting capability, but he's just right now got to make this Honda nice and wide, but do it in a way that's controlled, because the problem is around Oulton Park, there's a lot of places where very sudden jinks to the inside of a corner before the braking zone, such as the Cascade, can very quickly see you sending yourself off into the grass. But here comes Witvoet then. Can't quite find it under braking into the island hairpin, but definitely you can see the pace difference there of the 2 cars on a higher speed section of the circuit, where that Audi is able to pull much more rapidly, not just because of the toe, but also its gearing. But coming out of the low speed corner of the hairpin, this is where you can see, despite having less weight in the car, the Audi's more aggressive gearing is actually giving a lot of wheel spin there to Witvoet, which he has to contend with. Davidson, meanwhile, can bury the throttle in the Honda and just open up attempts worth of an extra gap, and that gives him the confidence coming down into his lots via the hilltop. Onwards they go, and no change at the moment. But again, as we now start to build up to a bit more of an extended run, the Audi gets closer. and closer, but can it find a way into Druid's Bend? And the answer will be no, it can't. It just has to look on menacingly with the 4 rings or the Vorsprung Dodge technique, but as they charging on towards the turn at number 11, well, they stay close for now, but you can imagine at any moment it only takes one mistake, and you can see this battle Sunny spread, or Sunny already build to its ultimate crescendo and erupt onto our screens. From them, Rd5 still leading in prime, 4th overall, and after Mikey Doble had the contact with the Goldwyn Motorsports machine of Sam Van Olst, you could understand that Van Olst now is a little bit far away, and it really is looking to be a 1-2 potentially here for JW Motorsport in the prime class, with Michael Lees in 6th place, albeit he's got to keep the tide of Horn, Delmont and Smith behind him. That's Lewis Delmont, and you may be noticing that Adam Delmont is onto the back of this pack. He's already into 12th place. He's still making more progress here, and Adam Delmont right now definitely building up the pace as the race goes deeper and deeper. Well, he's got no weight in this car, so that'll give him some confidence. And speaking of confidence there, Mikey Doble having the confidence to go up the inside of Watt into the hairpin, and Watt's never going to, not Watt, yes it is in Rd5, in fact, I was about to get my names confused, but Rd5 there daring not fight that. He wants to work with the Veloster driver in order to make sure he maintains his lead and is able to stay a bit clear of the field. As you can see there, Michael Lees right now acting as the buffer, with Lee Horn, the pro driver, separating Lewis Delmont and Sam Smith from him. But rolling their way out of the chicane, and onwards they'll go to a little bit deeper into the lap. We look back to Russell Fowler, who's looking for his way past Matthew Jordan, and while the AM leader versus the Pro-Am driver has been on a bit of a struggling streak, goes a bit deep there, makes a ham sandwich out of that one, and Russell Fowler will drop back again, and I think he'll be kicking himself at that one. No, he was a little bit too eager on the brakes in terms of how late he went. Still easy mistake to make, and he'll look to recover that from that one as quickly as he can. But we do need to take a look back at what happened to Mikey Doble versus Van Olst, and particularly Van Olst's excursion off the circuit. And here's a replay, ladies and gentlemen, from lap number 7, and this is what happened to Sam Van Olst in his drag race battle. So 2-1, they came down towards Hislop chicane under braking. Ooh, could this be a little bit of tap there? It looked as though both drivers just turning slightly towards each other under braking, and on turning, well, unfortunately, that's where the contact was made. But we must come back to the front of the field immediately, because coming out of Cascade, your eyes do not deceive you. That's Luciano Witvoet, who has taken the lead of a Tom Davidson. Well, we call that just in the nick of time, and well, Davidson losing out there. But I wonder whether potentially Davidson's been thinking about the fact they've got so much weight in the car, they'd rather guarantee a double podium if they can, rather than fight too hard, because they've got Mikey Doble coming up next. He's only 6 tenths behind, and he is closing very rapidly as they head in towards the Hislop chicane. But as they roll off, well, Rd5, he has got his teammate Michael Lees for close company, and understandably, these two right now continue to work together as Lee Horn has to get his elbows out there, but Lewis Delmont says, no, you don't, and because right now, I think Delmont's got bigger aspirations. However, here comes Smith as well, and Lee Horn, he was putting the cork in the bottle, and Sonny, the cork's been forced out of the bottle, and Smith here right now is showing that you can go too wide all the way through, and then some, as they come in towards Druid's Bend. The RSC spots Horn down the inside. Horn just about keeps it in track limit. They somehow survive that brilliant race between them, but Sam Smith right now, absolutely full commitment here. There was only one way that was going to end, and that was with him making the move. But the thing is, he tries to look around the outside of Lewis Delmont, but Delmont sees it coming and says, no, you don't, and now they make the way onto the next lap. 4 more laps to go here, but brilliant racing unfolding, and well, the fight right now for 3rd place in the Prime class is just as intense as the fight for the lead of the Prime class. Well, speaking of that, we've got Davidson and Pike in the battle for the podium spots. The two Sim Racing Collector drivers have got Mikey Doble right behind him as we jump on board here with Doble as he makes his way on through Cascades, and the point being that Doble looking one way then the other. He knows he's got the pace, he knows he's got the ability here, he's just got to find a way through. But look at how Sim Racing Collective are defending. They are trying to create a wall here. They're being very smart, with Pike essentially going slow on the inside line and putting the brakes on nice and early. Davidson, meanwhile, being on the outside, taking a much deeper line. So if Doble goes deep into the corner on the outside, he finds Davidson. If he goes tight on the inside, he finds Pike. They are really working together right now and staggering their cars to make sure that Doble can't find a way to get between the two of them, so long as they stay nice and tight. But the only thing is, with the way they're running, they are costing each other time. Michael Lees is close, albeit not close enough to get involved. But here comes Doble, gets a better run out of Nickelbrook corner. It's going to be too wide over the rise, and into Tower Bend they go. And I can only imagine here it will be Doble on the inside of Druids, whether Pike likes it or not. And Mikey Doble will take the place there and move up into 3rd place. Classic move being made there, but Andrew Pike gave it everything. Well, will he try and come back here down into the braking zone for Lodge? He's going to think about it. He does a brief jink to the inside and then recognises, no, he can only feint it because he's too far back. Further back, Joe Doble's also trying to make some progress here, trying to pass Lee Horn, and Horn, who's really been on the receiving end of the wrath of the Pram class, well, right now he's having to contest a pro driver, and Joe Doble started a long way down the running order in race number 1. He started this one in 12th place, and he's now up into 8th place. If he can get this move to stick, he's really having a great race, is Joe Doble, but as soon as I say that, well, the commentator's curse applies, and Horn's been escorted out wide. Joe Doble was in on that as well, not quite sure exactly what happened there, but here comes Guthrie and Vinols. They're all starting to step on each other's toes. Guthrie in the end gets a knock from Vinols as they come down through Cascade. There's no love lost between them, and Sam Vinols right now, he's just trying to pick up the pieces that were denied to him earlier on after his brief trip to the weeds. But in towards the hairpin they come, and as they do, everything settles down for a brief moment, and I emphasise the word brief here because I think there's going to be plenty more of it before all is said and done. But whilst all this is happening, we need to understand what exactly happened to Lee Horn. I don't think we can quite get a picture on that right now. In fact, yes, we can, because we've got a replay, and here it is. This is the battle between Lee Horn and Joe Doble into turn number 1. So it was Doble on the inside, Horn on the outside, under braking here. Well, oh, could this be? And that tells a very different story. It was the 27 of Sam Smith there that made the initial contact with Lee Horn. And well, I think there's a slight miscalculation under braking from Smith, albeit that's what the camera angle would suggest, where he just got caught out with a depression on entry to the inside of the corner, tapped the rear of Horn. Horn in turn carried the momentum to the back of Joe Doble. They survived it all in the end, but not the way they wanted it to go. We've also got a bit of a technical issue for Alex Meredith. He's in the pit lane, and well, he's just fed through to us in the YouTube chat. Car lost power for some reason, and sorry to hear that, Alex. Hopefully you're able to get to the bottom of the issue for race number 3, because we want to see you back out there giving it all, given the ding-dong battle you were having with Jamie Dory earlier on. But we do appreciate you giving us the update there, but it's not the way we want to see things go, as we do see something else go there, and that is second place. It goes the way of Mikey Doble as he passes Davidson around the outside of the opening corner through Denton's. So Doble now up into second place. Your race leader Witvoet is 2 seconds away, and we are on the penultimate lap here. So I think now for Mikey it's about just digging in and making sure he doesn't lose second, given the fact the whole aim of the game here will be to try and chase down Witvoet, who after the race 1 result will gain a bit more ground in the championship, and this race 2 result is going to enable Witvoet to gain even more ground at the front of the field. But anything can happen in race number 3, of course, and anything can happen before we get to the end of this race. It's not over yet. And speaking of things not being over, this is Winus battling with Alan McCain as they head up the rise. We ride on board here with the Track Scotland Elantra. He's looking up the inside of the Honda, albeit Winus not getting the X out of the corner he would like. Understandably, that's because being on the the inside of the hairpin, you're never going to get quite the run that the driver on the outside will get, because they have a much longer run to build up speed off of. But as Winus rolls out Knickerbrook Corner, you'll have another attempt at this the next lap. They're all fighting over the battle for 8th place in the Pro-Am class, with Duncan Rise being the man who holds on to that position currently. You can see him just a little bit further up the road there, tucked in rather tightly behind Jamie Dory, who is in turn in 18th place. This is really a battle outside of the top 15, outside of the top 12 most definitely, so no overall points coming to any of these drivers, but the point being they're still enjoying a bit of a scrap, as behind there's Russell Fowler as we look out the back of Stuart Winus's car, and the Audi RS3 all over the back of its rival, and Fowler trying to get himself back into the hunt after what has been a dismal race number 2 to compound his race number 1. But final lap gets underway. Our leaders are already making their way out towards the hairpin. No change of the foot here at the moment. Mark Sykes further back is leading in the AM class, with Matthew Jordan a long way back, and Marcel Fritsch effectively a lap down at this point after the early race incident. But from them, we look to Alexander Paulik, who fights with Lee Horn, and after Horn was escorted off the road at turn number 1 a few laps ago, well, this is where he finds himself now, fighting for the 1 spot off of the potential reverse grid positions. But the cow print machine there of Paulik seemingly holding on at the time. And well, the other truth of the situation is, let's stop the cow puns there, and we'll try to move on for them as quickly as possible, as Lee Horn looks one way then the other, but Paulik says no you don't, and he proves to be absolutely stubborn as a mule as they roar the way on through his lots. But charging their way on out, Paulik doing a great job of some defensive driving there, and from them we look towards the front of the field, because this is Davidson running in 3rd ahead of Andrew Pike, with Michael Lease close behind them. You can then see Mikey Doble just off in the distance as he heads in towards Lodge Bend, but at the front of the field, clearing said corner right now is Luciano Witvoet, who after some major gains in race number 1, it's been an incredible drive through the field, and in the end Luciano Witvoet will take victory in race number 2 of the day. Mikey Doble is your runner-up, and Tom Davidson makes it another podium for the Sim Racing Collective in 3rd ahead of Andrew Pike. Michael Lease takes Pro-Am class honours ahead of teammate Reese Watt, and it'll be a 1-2 for JW Motorsport in class. Lewis Delmont has fought his way through to 3rd place in the Pro-Am class, 7th overall ahead of Adam Delmont, his father, who in the end takes 8th 5th place. That's from 20th on the grid for Adam Delman. What a drive. Sam Smith takes 9th ahead of Joe Doble, who rounds off the top 10. And Mark Sykes down in 24th will take AM-class victory here and makes it 2 wins out of 2 so far. With Marcel Fritsch a lap down, Matthew Jordan, unfortunately, car having to be retired. So in the end, for all the charge at the front of the field, it hasn't quite worked out for Jordan, but we hope to see more in race 3. But Marcel Fritsch finishes 2nd in class once again. And well, the last lead lap finish was Conrad Kula, with Fritsch a lap down. Conrad Kula 25th on the road. And well, what an end for the race for many a driver there. Kula not having the race he wanted after the start line incident. But I'm sure more's to come in race number 3. But as all drivers bring things on down, Luciano Witvoet, what a drive. And it was a 3rd place start. Now, we found in the early stage of the race, he had to do more fighting against the drivers behind rather than the Sim Racing Collective pair in front. But once he cleared the pack, he was able to start making that progress and very quickly picked his way past Pike and then found Davidson a bit harder to crack, but a Cascades corner is where he got it done. And then it was Mikey Doble had to rinse and repeat and do the same, albeit 1.5 seconds back at the checkered flag. That's not to take away from the Sim Racing Collective pair of Davidson and Pike, with a pair of top 5 finishes and another podium. Some huge teams championship points there. One day we will get those teams championship points up on the board. We'll probably do them midway through the summer break now. And well, in the Pro-Am class, Michael Lees and Reese Watt 1-2 for JWM Motorsport, and their championships definitely moving forward. And we said Reese Watt was one to watch out for, but never count out his teammate Michael Lees either. They are loving it here at Oulton Park, and it's fantastic to see. But as all drivers make their way into the pit lane, also there, Stuart Winus, a reasonable race, all things considered, albeit he didn't go forward, he went backwards slightly in the end, so therefore he'll be hoping for a much better end today in race number 3, but also got stuck in the fight in there with Fowler and McCain, so he won't complain too much about that, and sometimes that's what you're here to enjoy, it's all the fighting. But let's take a look at those race results, subject to any stewards' inquiries, and here they are. And as we can see, ladies and gentlemen, after a classic second race of the day here at the Oulton Park Island Circuit for round number 5 of Season 9 of the Orange Lobbies Next Gen Racing Touring Car Championship, brought to you on iRacing and powered by Doble Motorcycles, Luciano Witvoet returns to the top step for World of Racing with STR Motorsports, the Dutchman taking victory by 1.4 seconds. Mikey Doble, second, and with that, the Double Sim Racing driver finishing behind his rival, and therefore knowing when you can't beat your rival, you've got to stay as close as possible to them, and that's exactly what he's done. And from the Double Sim Racing driver, and the 42 of Tom Davidson there for the Sim Racing Collective Esports, making it back-to-back podiums. Andrew Pike just missing out on the podium, but a 4th place. He won't be upset about that. Indeed, he is Mr. 4th place. He's finished in 4th more times than most pros have over the course of his extensive career, if my statistics are correct, with Michael Lees taking prime victory, 5th place overall for JWM Motorsport, and it's a prime 1-2 for JWM, because Reese Watt finishing just behind him, a further 1.5 seconds adrift. Lewis Delman made his way to 3rd place in prime, 7th overall, so Next Gen Green Drive getting himself a good chance of being in the potential reverse grid, as did his father and teammate Adam Delman, who charged through from 20th to 8th. What a drive from him. Sam Smith, 9th there for iRacing Esports, misses out on the Pro-Am podium, but another solid drive, and indeed, after damage from race number 1, the number 27 car flying high in race 2, with Joe Doble there struggling on through to 10th place for Double Sim Racing, and getting some important points on the board. Sam Van Olst, best the rest in the length there for Goldwyn Motorsports, and behind the Belgian, it was the Northern Irishman, I believe, of William Guthrie for Full Tilty Motorsport, with Boosted Motorsport, who in then taking 12th. Well, for him, it does mean he'll be in the final of the reverse grid eligible positions, and he'll be hoping the number 12 is drawn out of the bowl. Alexander Paulitt made some great progress in this race, moving all the way up to a 13th place finish, but just missing out on that reverse grid pool for World of Racing at STR Motorsports. Then Lee Horn, Next Gen Pink's 36 driver, finishing 14th. Not the way he wanted it to go after holding on to the top 10 for so long, but still, race 3 comes, and Isaac Doble round off your top 15 there for Doble Sim Racing, taking the last of the overall points. In 16th, it was Nick Clibbins for Irish Esports ahead of Ben Altria, with Jamie Dory, Duncan Rise, and Alan McCain completing your top 20. And outside the top 20, let's not forget about them, Stuart Winus, Russell Fowler, and Benjamin Gregory, with the Full Tilty Motorsport with Boosted Motorsport driver having a happier race number 2 after the dismal end to his race number 1, but still he wants more than that, no doubt about it. Expect him to come roaring through the field in race 3 if he can. Mark Sykes makes it back-to-back victories in the AM class, 24th overall for WSS Racing, and the last lead lap finisher, Conrad Kula for Semper Racing, after a start line incident, will be happy to finish on the lead lap. Behind the Polishman, it was a lap down to the Austrian of Rhino Esports' Marcel Fritsch, runner-up in the AM class. Third place in AM went to Matthew Jordan, a further lap down, so 2 laps down from the race winner for NXTGEN Pink. And there was retirements, unfortunately, for Matthew Addy and Alex Medif, both for WSS Racing, but their races not going in the direction they wanted. And Gavin Garner, there were retirement at the start of the race for NXTGEN Pink. Well, there were 30 starters, and in the end, ladies and gentlemen, a grand total of 27 finishers, 2 of which a lap or more down. But with that, we have one more race to come, of course, because coming up very shortly will be race number 3 of the day, and of course it always leads to the good old question of who is going to be on pole for our reverse grid. Well, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, as we do get ourselves very much set to go, well, we do make our way into the quarantine booth, and as we do, good evening to you all, and I hope you're all doing absolutely well as always, and it smiles about. I can tell you one thing, it may be boiling hot in the quarantine booth, but I'm having a great time covering all this absolutely fine racing action. But enough about me. The most important thing, of course, is where we reversing the grid from. So we have our NXTGEN Racing Lottery Bowl here. As always, the numbers 6 through to 12 are located within it. So far this season, we've had the number 10, the number 8, the number 9, and number 6. We're going to close our eyes, draw a ball, and, well, we will announce who's going to be on reverse grid pole for race number 3. Let's get to it. There's the shuffle. And let's do the draw. And your reverse grid for tonight is going to be, it's a new number. It is the number 7 that takes reverse grid pole, and that means I do a little bit of hand geometry. It is going to be none other than Lewis Delmont, who has earned himself the right to be your pole sitter for the final race of the day. His father, Adam, well, he starts in 8th place. Unfortunately, just missed out, but it is a Lewis Delmont front row combined with Reese Watt. Expect it to be feisty and fiery. And the question is, which of the two of them will come out on top come the end of race number 3, or will it be one of the other drivers further down the field? Well, for all that and more, ladies and gentlemen, come back in about 10 to 15 minutes time to see how all of our racing concludes the first half of the season. You've got to catch it here to believe it to see it. But until then, we'll catch you shortly, not without a word from our title sponsor, of course, Doble Motorcycles. Speaking of Mikey Doble Racing, if you'd like to support Mikey as he pushes it to the limit out on track, you can do so by following the Mikey Doble Racing Facebook page as seen on screen. Additionally, if you want to represent the 88 Army at a BTCC weekend, Mikey Doble Racing has some fantastic merchandise available just for you, as may be found either via the Mikey Doble Racing Facebook page or alternatively in the Doble Motorcycles store at dobledirect.co.uk. Don't miss out on being a part of the 88 Army today. And here we are once again, and for the final time this evening, ladies and gentlemen, for race 3 of 3 in round number 5 of season 9 of the Next Gen Racing Touring Car Championship. Your focus being on the orange lobby as of this broadcast. Goodness me, what a pair of races we have had so far. Race number 1, it was the Sim Racing Collective team that dominated it. A 1-2 for Tom Davidson and Andrew Pike. In race number 2, the Sim Racing Collective blockade was pierced by Luciano Witvoet first and foremost, and then Mikey Doble also managed to find his way through late on in the day. But race number 3 is going to see a top 7 reverse grid. It's the 5th number we've seen in 5 races. We haven't had a repeat number yet, so we are going against the statistical grain at this point. And Lewis Delmont finds himself on pole position. However, it's a prime class that's going to be absolutely packed full of batting with Rhys and Michael Leese for company. You can imagine JWM Motorsport, they made it a 1-2 in race number 2 in the prime class. Can they make it a 1-2 once again, or can Lewis Delmont take a win that he needs to make sure he maintains a comfortable place at the top of the prime standings? Well, there's plenty of questions, and we need a good number of answers in order to be able to figure out exactly how those championship standings will stand. But it's anybody's guess, because we've seen some absolutely superb driving so far all the way through the evening, and I'm certain we're going to see even more. However, as we sit here and wait, well, there's only one thing to do. We can ask, of course, the question to a couple of drivers, how they're feeling for the final race of the evening. And I think, you know what, let's try and grab a word, not necessarily from our man who started on reverse grid pole, because I think he's going to be getting his head down, but let's speak to the man who's fought his way through, the father of our reverse grid pole sitter, and the man who might be feeling a little bit gutted that he's missed out on reverse grid pole. But the flip side of the coin is he's not carrying much weight into this race. So let's see if we can get a word with him in the Warrior hat. And we'll try and get a word from Adam Delmont. Give us a brief moment, ladies and gentlemen, and we will try to get the patch through to the car. And as we try to get a patch through to Adam, you got time for a quick word?
Hello, Paul. Yep, always for you, buddy.
Well, Adam, we head into the final race of the day. Your son, Lewis, has taken reverse grid pole. You just finished 1 place behind him, so you've got it all to do from 8th. But, I mean, you made up 12 places in race 2, so surely making up 7 in this final race of the day should be a breeze.
Yeah, I'm hoping I can, salvage a bit of something. Obviously, I had a few unfortunate incidents last week, which has, put me in the position of a pit lane start for tonight and no qualifying, so been on back foot on a track that's notoriously hard to pass, so I've just tried to steadily work my way up, mate, just to try and give myself a shout of salvaging something at the end. But it's going to plan so far, but I'm looking around for a bit of wood to touch right now, and I've not got any.
Oh, fair play. Well, if we could pan to the commentary booth, I would be touching what's remaining of my hair for you to wish you the best of luck. But with that, plenty of drivers in front of you, only 30 seconds to go, so we'll leave you to it. Good luck for this race, and we'll see you at the checkered flag.
Cheers, Paul. Thank you.
So hearing there from Adam Delmont, a quick word from him, we don't want to distract him any further, and giving an honest assessment there, which is due to the instance from Thruxton having to start on the back foot and hoping, well, that's why he's saying, looking to touch some wood, hoping for some good luck in this final race to really salvage a big result. But to be fair, to fight your way through from 20th to 8th in race number 2, that is no small feat, given the fact how tight the circuit is. But can Adam Delmont make some magic happen? Well, his son Lewis will definitely be hoping to make some magic happen from the front of the field. But for all that and more, it's time then, ladies and gentlemen. Race number 3's here. Let's head to the grid and find out how it all comes to a close. So as the drivers make the way onto the grid, this is how they'll line up then for the final race here at Oulton Park Island. Lewis Delmont takes reverse grid pole position for Next Gen Green, joined on the front row by fellow Pro-Am Rhys for JWM Motorsport. Michael Leese lines up in 3rd, with the JWM team looking to try and get one over the Next Gen Green driver. However, they've got the Sim Racing Collective esports pair of Andrew Pike and Tom Davidson behind them 4th and 5th, and round off the top 6 is Mikey Doble for Doble Sim Racing. Race 2 winner Luciano Witvoet, he starts 7th for World of Racing at STR Motorsports, and this will feel as though it's race 1 again, albeit he's starting 7th, not 8th, but he has got maximum success ballast in the car, and he's got his rolls in front of him. Adam Delmont starts 8th there for NXTGEN Green. We just heard from him, he's hoping for a bit of luck, but he's in a light car, and in theory, this race should come to him if he keeps his head down. Sam Smith starts in 9th, and knows that from 9th place on the 5th row of the grid, the Irish Esports machine could make some great progress, but he's got to manage Joe Doble, who sits alongside him for Doble Sim Racing. We see on row number 6, Sam Van Ols for Goldwyn Motorsports, the Belgian driver there. He's had mixed fortunes all evening and continues to nip his way around the bottom end of the top 10. Can he have better fortunes in this race? William Guthrie joins him on the 6th row of the grid for Full Tilt Motorsport with Boosted Motorsport. Then behind them, starting 13th, Alexander Paulik for World of Racing at STR Motorsports, and he's joined on the 7th row of the grid by Lee Horn for NXTGEN Pink. Isaac Doble completes your top 15 there for Double Sim Racing, and joining on the 8th row and 16th place is Nick Clemens for iRacing Esports. The iRacing Esports trio have definitely enjoyed some brilliant racing so far today. We hope to see more of it in this race. We see behind him, starting 17th, Ben Altrier for Full Tilt Motorsport with Boosted Motorsport. Difficulties in race number 2 sent him down the order. He'll be hoping for a more progressive race number 3, as will Jamie Dory for NXTGEN Pink, albeit behind the pair of them completing the top 20, Duncan Moraes for Goldwyn Motorsports and Alan McCain for Iris Esports. Then, to complete off your starting order, Stuart Winnes and Russell Fowler on row number 11. They're followed up by Ben Gregory for Full Tilt Motorsport with Boosted Motorsport and Mark Sykeshaw and Pole Sitter. And then they have Conrad Kula for Semper Racing starting 25th, ahead of Marcel Fritsch, the runner-up in race number 2 in the AM class there, albeit a lap down. He'll be hoping not for a start line instant this time out, albeit a very unfortunate one, but they do happen every so often. And Matthew Jordan, he had a lightning start, only for it to end up going backwards before it could go forwards. Can he make it go forwards again in this one and stay there from 27th on the grid? The NXTGEN Pink drives in the company of WSS Racing's Matthew Addy, and then Alex Meredith completes your 29 starters of WSS Racing, and that's how they'll all line up for our final race today. We have lost a driver, unfortunately, but while we've lost in one driver, we still will maintain the quality of the racing, no doubt about it. It's been absolutely top-tier racing today in round number 5 of the championship, and with all the field set and ready to go, well, it's not going to be long before we do see whether it be Lewis Delmont or Reece Watt who gets the launch. But as they sit there now, the lights are going on, and for the final time this evening, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be fire red lights, and it's lights out and away we go. There's Lewis Delmont, ends up with quite a lot of wheel spin, but look at this, as Michael Lees takes one, he takes 2, he goes between the pair of them, and as they come down towards turn number 1, Michael Lees with a lightning start. Tom Davidson also tries to do the same as we look to the blimp camera there, and the whole field makes its way through the opening corner. Perfect start from every driver there to make the one out, and as they head down towards, oh, that's onto the grass, that's Luciano Witvoet taking a big excursion, he's got out wide, no, that's Witvoet on the outside, into the barrier, my good lord, and well, who was that on the inside? I'm not quite sure, that might have been Davidson in fact, who ended up coming off worse through Denton's, but Whitford's gone straight to the barrier there at Cascades Corner, couldn't quite see how he was aided, and there's more drama as Alexander Paulik, who made great starts, ends up being ejected stage right out there, coming into the hairpin. And when he comes back together there, I don't know how he's managed to get it back on, because that was going a very long way. That was practically off into Shell Oil's corner. But in the end, he's come back, and we've dropped all the way down to 24th. So a great start initially, and then it's all ended up in drama and tears as quickly as they could get to turns 2 and 3. But in all of it, well, Michael Lees is still leading, and Mikey Dole's in second, but we've definitely seen Davidson drop all the way down to 17th. We've also seen Reece Watt lose out a little bit, and Andrew Pite lose out a little bit. So therefore, well, the biggest wounds, Lewis Delmont's been ejected down the order as well. I don't know how on earth that's happened. Well, we did see multiple cars get scattered, but I'm sure we'll get a replay very quickly to explain. But some of our big names right at the front of the field have fallen well before they could even get there. But as they make their way onwards, well, we've got plenty of laps to decide this one. Plus, of course, the worry of a safety car if anything should happen, and you never know. We haven't seen many safety cars this season, and long may that continue, hopefully from a standards perspective. But if needed, they will come on out. But after lap number 1, it's Michael Lees that leads, followed by Mikey Doble. Then we've got Reece Watt in 3rd, Adam Delmont in 4th, who's had a lightning start from 8th on the grid. Andrew Pite down to 5th, but still moving forward. Sam Van Olst in 6th, Sam Smith in 7th, Lee Horn in 8th, Isaac Doble 9th, and Joe Doble completes your top 10. Down in 11th, it's William Guthrie, and then having made up 5 places, Ben Altrier, who's had a brilliant start to this race. He's getting plenty of places, and right now I think the confidence will be building for him as Adam Delmont up the inside there of Reece Watt down into the island hairpin. That's another place gain, and Delmont already now 5 places upwards. And well, we did say that surely this should be a breeze for him. He has been aided, to be fair, by 3 of his big rivals being ejected down the order, but still, you've got to be in the right place to take the places. He's doing exactly that, and well, Andrew Pite finds himself in the pram sandwich right now, because what's in front of him Van Olst is behind, and I think he's been pushed a little bit forward there by Van Olst, because Van Olst right now in that Audi RS3 is looking very frightening indeed. Further down the order in the AM class, Matthew Jordan leads the AM class. Once again, he finds himself at the head of the AMs, with Matthew Addy and Lewis Delmont between him, and then Marcel Fritsch and Mark Sykes. So Sykes has had a bit of a nightmare start. Marcel Fritsch hasn't made too much progress either. Addy and Delmont, well, Lewis Delmont's definitely fallen all the way down, and I do wonder whether he's sporting any damage on that next-gen green Honda. My gut feeling says yes, he is, but what type of damage is the question? As looking from them, it's a bit of a scatter there, as a lot of drivers run out wide, coming out of Druids Bend, and well, it's Benjamin Gregory stepping wide of Russell Fowler, who's got Stuart Winus and Alan McCain right now nipping at his heels. Conrad Coolers on the back of this, and we jump aboard with Conrad Coolers. He looks for an opportunity up the inside in towards turn 1. Where's close? Can he try and go for it here in the separation 45? Gets it on the brakes, still there, and we squeezed the apex there, albeit just enough space being given by McCain. McCain knows exactly where to put the car and Cooler in and being made to wait, but you can understand there if he felt as though he had that move on, but McCain simply says to him, no you don't, and shows what the Honda can do, and that is it can squeeze other cars very close to the apex if needed and carry a lot of speed still. But coming down towards turn number 4, well, as they come down, Cooler there won't be outbreaking the Honda, as we can see McCain absolutely on the attack there versus Winus, and looking for an opportunity to try and get a bit close there and move into the fight for the top 10 of the Pro-Am class. Cooler, a pro driver meanwhile, just wants to make some progress into the top 15 to score some overall points if he can. It's proven a bit difficult. As you can see, Alexander Paulick flashes lights behind, and Paulick was the man who made a great start for the opening 3 bends, only for the hairpin at turn number 4 to see him abscond out wide, and we'll get the replay of that when we can. In fact, I think we're going to get some replays now, and here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the replay of the race start. Now, this was Lewis Delmont, who had a very poor start from pole position, drops all the way down initially to 5th place, albeit side by side there with Mikey Doble. In the end, gets back ahead on a wide line. Now, down the hill, this is where it goes wrong. Oh, goodness me, and that was Davidson going out wide there. I think Davidson getting caught up there. I don't think there was contact. I think Davidson in the end just losing the rear coming down through Denton's into Cascade, and as a result of that being ejected, we saw Lewis Delmont also falling off. But what happened to Luciano Witvoet in all this? We didn't quite see him on the camera there. Can we get him on board? Yes, we can. Let's listen in and watch. So down into Denton's he went. Oh, no, and that's explained. So Lewis Delmont lost it with Davidson, and Witvoet just happened to be the collateral damage there, and in the end sent to the barrier, and when he looks back at it, he was just in the wrong place at the right time to have contact made. But Lewis Delmont having a nightmare moment. They all did, and then we had the instant for Alexander Paulick later on. Now, this was coming down towards the hairpin, and, well, he'd made an absolute plethora of places. Under braking he went. Contact there with William Guthrie, I believe. Very innocent contact, to be fair. 3 wide down there is always contentious. If you have a slight bearing on the steering wheel, it's going to send you around. We hit the one, very quickly got it back together, and Mark Sykes in helping him return to the racing. So that was your opening lap, full of drama, no doubt about it. And, well, with all that drama, we now come back to your live racing action on lap number 4. And as we do, there's still more to come, no doubt about it, because with Andrew Pike here, under pressure from Sam Vernolst, he's starting to fall a bit further back. And, well, Vernolst would love to get through to go hunting after Reese Watt. Michael Lease is still your race leader overall by 1.3 seconds over Mikey Doble. Keep in mind that Doble will have more weight in the car compared to Lease, and that will be holding at bay for making progress. But speaking of Doble, look at this. This is Adam Delmont. He fancies his chances nice and early here, does Delmont, coming on through at the opening corner, but he can't quite find it at the moment. But as we look back from the rear of the number 1 car that's sitting in 2nd place, well, Delmont, he's no stranger to battling with Mikey. Indeed, these two have battled time and time again, and Adam Delmont, he always has the nickname of the man who's without a championship, albeit he's got the pace of a champion, he's got the craftsmanship of a champion, but it's never quite fallen his way. Every time he's been on a championship campaign that's been looking good, bad luck has absolutely struck time and time again, and well, right now we'll be looking to try and arrest that by the end of this season, albeit Mikey Doble keeping him there for now. You can see very close, 2 very different machines, 2 different ways of making up the lap time. Delmont blazingly quick under braking and through the corners, as the Honda should be. The Veloster of Doble, meanwhile, a bit more balanced out, and therefore just able to prove a bit obstinate this time, and able to put up the resistance as they come out of his slops and through Knickerbrook Corner. But we have had a bit of drama. That's Sam Vernolst, who's been pushed off the road. Well, whether he's made it of his own volition question whether he's been ejected forcefully. We'll see as he rejoins. A Stuart Winus around in the rear of the picture as well. That is not a welcome sign. Where it looks over there, it's all gloves off here in race number 3. It does seem as though, well, for all the peacefulness of races 1 and 2 by comparison, all the drivers now definitely got points to prove. And we've got 2 wide there into Druid's Bend, as that's going to be Jamie Dory trying to look for a way past Nick Clemens, but Clemens holds the outside line, and the RAC Sports driver stays with his teammate Sam Smith for the time being. But saying that, Duncan Rise now looking around the outside of Dory, and Dory really struggling with this Elantra at the moment. He's been having a lot of technical issues quite recently with the car, and those technical gremlins have come with him to Oulton Park, and we're heading into another lap here. Well, he's been trying to put them to bed, but it's not quite working out. But 2 by 2 they come into the opening quarter here, and Mariah versus and Davidson at this point with Dory versus Clibbins. Well, they all set the differences for now. No change apart from Davidson getting past Mariah, and well, the Pro-Am driver has to keep watching and waiting here for an opportunity to take Clibbins on for 5th place in the Pro-Am class. But as they come down, we look back to Doble versus Delmont, and Delmont did get ahead on the outside line into the hairpin, but Doble defended to the inside. Now you can see Delmont looks one way, then the other. Not right now, wanting to settle down here. Flash of lights, and I think feeling as though at this point he's got to start getting all the tricks in the book out to find his way past Doble, and that includes flashing your lights there in order to get into your rival's head, albeit it doesn't always work. Andrew Pike sitting in 4th place at the moment and just watching on the leading Sim Racing collective car. He'll be thinking to himself, okay, what happens in front? Could I have an opportunity here to steal away 2nd or 3rd place? Should they take each other off the road? Well, right now, they're not taking each other off the road, but they're definitely taking each other nose to tail through Druid. That's no doubt about it. Lease is still open up a bit of a gap. 1.5 seconds is the lead gap now. And I think Lease will just carry on his way and hope the 2 behind him continue to fight here. And this will be one of the big battles of the day, no doubt about it. So the biggest names in the NXTCC absolutely going hammer and tongs. But from them, that's a big sideways moment. That is going to be Alex Meredith making his way sideways, just missing the mark at Druid's corner. And will the AM lead battle, Jordan versus Marcel Fritsch, makes its way past the stricken Dorisus race in Veloster, and in due time, because right now Jordan and Fritsch absolutely together here, and Marcel Fritsch gets a better run off the corner, but you can see that Jordan puts in the middle of the road. There's not enough width to the circuit until they get through Deer Lake and onto the start for the straight. Fritsch looks to the inside, but when all 3 of our AM drivers are driving the Hondas, there's no difference between the cars other than the success ballast weight, and therefore it does mean this really does come down to the driver and the master of the machine. Jordan right now doing very well on these medium speed corners to get the better exit. Fritsch there or thereabouts, but just waiting in the wings, and well, Jordan takes a lot of apex there, way too much, to send him out wide. Surely this is going to be a straightforward move around the outside and down towards Island Hairpin. We can see Jordan there. He's going to try and look to the inside, but he's not going to have enough leverage under braking. And Marcel Fritsch does find a way through, as it's a bit of a wrecking yard there. And I think that's Conrad Kula who's had another instant as he makes his way off the racing circuit as quick as he can before then trying to reverse things around. But what's sent Conrad Kula on around? Well, before we can get an answer to that, we need to get an answer to what happened to Van Olst and Winus down at Hislop's hairpin, albeit or Hislop's chicane, I should say. That's not a hairpin, but we're not going to get any answers to that right now because we've got even more fighting going on, and it's your battle for 2nd place. It's definitely taking up the centre stage, but notably Michael Lease is struggling on this lap. In fact, Michael Lease's sector times over the last couple of laps have been falling away a bit, and with Doble and Delmont right now, the fact they have not been going side by side, it means their pace is picking up again, and that lap, a 28.1 for Lease, for Doble a 27.8, Delmont a 27.8, that's 3 tenths they've just ripped out of his lead. Well, Lease right now could be drawn into this battle. He's got to hope that Delmont and Doble pick on each other a bit more, but it's almost as if these two right now have sort of settled down and realised, you know what, there's a bigger thing at stake here, which is the overall win. We both want it. Let's head towards it first and then fight over it as a trio, because surely they'll be able to reel Lease in. That's their thought process. As you can see there, Dylan looks down the outside, goes the cut back, tries to build up the momentum, but Mikey simply just parks the car on the apex there and says, no, you don't. And Delmont's seen that one before, so he's got to time it right on the launch. William Guthrie runs out deep down the hairpin, trying to get the better run off the corner, but Sam Smith is on his inside here, so therefore Guthrie can't cut to the inside down the hilltop and in towards Hislop's, because otherwise he'll find himself on the incursion path of another Honda. So they'll go 2 wide down in towards the chicane, and well, Guthrie goes very deep there. That's going to enable Smith through, and Nick Clemens fancies his chances here, but Nian has to tuck back in. Niners not getting enough space going to Nickelbrook corner unless he wants to send them both into the gravel trap, and well, neither one of them wants to do that. But up they go, and as they charge over the hill, well, now we do have Jamie Dury right on the back of this. He's watching and waiting in the wings, looking to pounce, but they're all fighting over the final spots inside the top 15, and some big points potentially on the table for the Prams in particular, but for our Pro driver, just looking to get some more points on the board. But from one member of the Doble family who's having an absolute ding-dong battle for second, we've also got the two brothers of Joseph and Isaac here. Well, they're still running together. They're running in 5th and 6th overall respectively, and understandably they want to close down Andrew Pike for 4th place, and I think they'll try to work together here. But I wouldn't be surprised if they're perhaps on communications, perhaps discussing which of the two of them might be the faster driver, and whether potentially swapping places is going to enable them to gain more race time, albeit there's no sign of it at the moment. I think both Joe and Isaac are mutually working together, albeit Joe slides wide there at Cascades. That's going to change the equation straight away, and Isaac does make his way through there and wants to swap of positions, but an understandable one, and Joe brings the car back together, and in doing so now will just follow on suit. Behind, however, it's anything but calm as Beneltree on the outside there goes a bit too deep. That's going to enable Lee Horn to come through, and Smith just watches. We jump on board with the RS Esports Honda, the number 27. It's still looking for an opportunity. Horn gets ahead of his rival in the front of the camera shot, but you can see that Ultree trying to break around the outside. This is very bold from Ultree. Doesn't want to give up whatsoever, but Horn's not going to let him get it back because they make the way from left into right. Horn there absolutely gets his elbows out. You can see the contact between the two of them, and Smith right now glued onto the back of Ultree. Well, if he can get the run around the outside here, it's going to be brave. Smith thinks about it, puts two wheels in the grass and then decides, okay, that's not going to work out. He's got a face full of a Lantra in front of him and has to wait his turn again. Well, right now, Lee Horn definitely showing his veteran nature of the NXTCC. Ultree, to be fair, has been on the grid for the best part of 5 seasons, so it's not as though he's not a veteran, but right now, Horn absolutely making the moves that others would not perhaps want to do so, but Ben Ultree also racing very fairly. It is brilliant racecraft between these two, and both of them previously in the Prime class were Horn in the Pro, Ultree in the Pro-Ams, but there's no love lost. Indeed, their rivalry always seems to go on, regardless of what classes they're in, and they love the race in 2 very different generations of drivers, but right now sharing a mutual goal, which is enjoying the racing as we continue to ride over with Sam Smith here, and we're thinking out the movement to Cascades. Ultree goes a bit deep. You look at Smith, you can see the struggle there by pitching the car to the inside. He tried to get on the inside into Cascades, but then realised that the bump in the road, all that's going to do is actually send the car straight on, so he had to bleed off more speed there, and he couldn't seize the opportunity. Ultree almost lost the rear in return because he was worried about Smith trying to get onto the inside, but that's why attacking at Cascades, you've got to be side by side before the braking zone. If you're not, it can really unsettle the car, and it can unsettle the driver in front of you if you don't know what's happening. Albeit, these drivers right now showing great car control, but it's that temptation to try and make moves, but they don't always stick here at Oulton Park, and that is the technical challenge that's being presented. Oulton Park really does not give you any opportunity. You've got to extract it and take it from the circuit by default. But as they continue on line of stern formation, well, Sam Van Alsten, Bencher and Gregory, we said about these two, particularly Gregory wanting to have a better race number 3, and all right now the full tilt Motorsport, boosted Motorsport driver in the very colourful livery machine. Always love that colour there, indeed representing every colour of the rainbow. Well, as he heads underneath the Warwick Bridge, Van Alsten's going to have an opportunity in that Audi that's looking very strong on the straight. And 2 wide they come into Lodge Bend. Exit, however, it will be one car ahead of the other, and it will still be Gregory ahead for a brief moment. Albeit I can imagine Van Alsten is going to try and come back at him into Old Hall Corner. He'll look to the inside there, but surely Audi's not going to have the gumption to do so. It won't, and they will stay as they are as Alexander Paulick goes up the inside of Alan McCain. They're 2 wide on the exit, as is Van Alsten. Gregory here, so 2 by 2 they come into Denton's. And Van Alsten on the outside to inside into Cascades corner. That's going to go one way, and it will go the way of Van Alsten. Meanwhile, Paulick on the outside, they're still fighting with McCain, and these two not giving each other any ground whatsoever. And well, fantastic racing between them. And right now, McCain, he's not going to let this go anytime soon, but I think he's going to have to, because that Audi on the inside there of the island hairpin, he tries to cut it back, but taps the rear quarter panel of the Audi, and that's where they stay. Matthew Jordan, well, he's fighting for the AM lead here with Marcel Fritsch. Fritsch trying to go around the outside, but Jordan on the inside there, and Reece Stewart Winus into the battle. That's going to help him out. He'll try to break away. It's not going to be easy, however. We'll have to wait and see how that ends between us. They come down to the braking zone for his laps, and it will be Marcel Fritsch who just gets ahead. Now, newsflash elsewhere, whilst all this has been going on, we have recently had Adam Delmont move into 2nd place, and we've found his way past Mikey Doble, who's dropped a bit further down. Here's how Adam Delmont made the move happen, and this was coming out of Knickerbrook corner, up the rise they went, with Delmont having to put 2 balls in the grass initially. 2 wide they come through Clay Hill, then into Tower. Well, it looks like here Delmont's going to go all the way around to the inside, did exactly that, and in the end, Mikey Doble not really having a response at that point, and I suspect, given the battling, well, perhaps for Doble, he's just taking a bit too much life out the tyres. Delmont, conversely, well, I think he'll be feeling as though there's plenty of life in the car, and we come back just at the opportune moment here, because Michael Leash, your race leader, has now got to try and keep a fired-up Adam Delmont behind him. Delmont looking around the outside immediately here. There's no hesitation. The number 37 driver, he knows he's got the laps in order to go for this. He knows he's got the tyre life remaining as well in that Honda, and Lease, meanwhile, has got to find a way to stay ahead for the best part of this lap, plus another two. Well, coming down into the braking zone here for his laps. Indeed, I'm getting flashbacks here to BTCC race, and particularly Mikey Doble trying to hold off Jake Hill in 2024 for his first race win of his career, albeit that didn't come, of course, with Hill taking the lead with only a lap to spare. However, right now, Michael Leash trying to hold on for another overall win. He has had in his career a grand total of 3 overall wins, and well, those all coming through race number 3 of a given race day. But right now, the prime driver here trying to hold on, and Adam Delmont very eagerly needing the points to get something out of this round. Well, behind them in the battle for third, it's Pike versus Doble into turn number 11, and Andrew Pike really coming along here, and I think Mikey Doble has stripped all the life out of his front tyres, but look at this, here we come then, penultimate lap, and it's going to be Delmont looking around the outside immediately here on Lease into turn 1. He fancies chances, but Lease just simply stays there and says, no you don't, and in the end Adam Delmont has to run a little bit wide and back off. We're coming down the hill now and into den turns where it's going to be Delmont looking around the outside all the way through Cascades. Can he cut it back? No, he can't, as he taps the rear of Lease's car, rolling off the left-hander then. Onwards they go, past the lakeside here, and now Lease has got to go defensive at every single corner, but this requires him to absolutely nail his braking points, as Delmont's going to look around the outside. Can he cut it back? He tries to. Lease stops it on the apex and says, no, you do not. Lease has seen this before. Delmont's tried it all before, but one of them's got to give at some point. Coming on down over the hilltop then, and now looking one way, then the other. You can see Delmont here, he's thinking every so often, which way do you want me to come now, Michael? Am I coming to your inside? Am I coming to your outside? It's really like two boxers getting ready to do feints and exchange punches, because as they roll off of Knickerbrook Corner, well, Lease right now definitely has got a very strong guard, but the problem is that Delmont right now is swinging more and more as they head onwards then in towards Druids. Behind them, Andrew Pike has completed the move on Mikey Doble. Whilst all this has been happening, that was completed in the run out of Lodge Bend into Old Hall Corner, so therefore Mikey Doble falling away, and definitely Doble has fallen off the pace. I think the front tyres that have lost it have completely given in, and well, therefore he'll be trying to consolidate a 4th place, which will still be a good result, particularly given that Witvoet has had to retire from this race. She's that open lap shunt into the barrier at Cascade, but as the white flag waves here, we're going to stay with the lead battle all the way to the end. It's the prime of Michael Leash trying to hold off the prime Adam Delmont, and right now there is nothing between them. Adam Delmont in a very light car in terms of success pass, and a Honda that's got plenty of time life, versus Michael Leash in a heavy Veloster that right now is just trying to hold on a little bit longer. Well, as they make the way off of Cascades Corner, we ride above this time, looking down over the nose of the 37 for NXTGEN Green, and Delmont here, what else can he do at this point? Well, he's tried cutbacks all the time. Now he's going to have to get inventive. This time he's going to look to come from very far back, taps the rear, and a big slide as he cocks the rear right wheel. But that was a very smart attempt there, and Lease, I think in the end, only saw it coming at the last moment, which was that Delmont was really trying to come in late on the corner and get a very tight exit line. Didn't quite work out. They've only got another 7 quarters to go here as they charge their way through Hislop chicane and in towards Knickerbrook Corner. Well, there's a story to that corner, but we'll tell it another broadcast, because right now it's not important. Instead, it's going to be Adam Delmont there who makes a mistake, runs out wide, kind of Knickerbrook Corner, and that's going to open the gap up to half a second here as they head in towards Druids Bend. Now, all Lease has got to do is now Druids. If he could do that, he may be safe for the remainder of the lap here, but Delmont's going to throw everything at this one, no doubt about it. Off camera, Van Ulster's found his way past Dory for 14th place. This time, we'll keep you updated on that where we can, but into the final major corner they go. Then Delmont's too far back to look for a move here. Lease has only got to get a good run, and I think he's going to do it, ladies and gentlemen, because the checker flag waves, and Michael Lease adds another overall victory to his NXTCC career, and a prime victory of that. Michael Lease wins, with Adam Delmont in 2nd, Andrew Pike 3rd, Mikey Doble in 4th, and then it will be Isaac Doble finishing 5th, just ahead of brother Joseph in 6th. Lee Horn takes 7th, ahead of Reswap, the runner-up in the prime class, to make it a JWM Motorsport 1-2 again. Ben Altrier rounds off the prime podium with a 9th place finish, a good end to his day. Sam Smith in 10th, and further back in the Amley battle, battle. Well, this is Matthew Jordan. He's trying to hold off Marcel Fritsch. Fritsch looks around the outside into Dear Leap. It's not going to work. And Matthew Jordan holds on for 21st. But for him, it's Am victory ahead of Marcel Fritsch. And then we will see further on behind, 7 seconds back, Mark Sykes rounds off the Am podium there. And goodness me, what an end to the race. And we've got a bit of breathing room before Duncan Rice comes to the end of the finishing field. But we still will see him come across that line, ladies and gentlemen, because he's finishing this race much like everybody else. And they all deserve a round of applause. And the Goldwyn Motorsport driver here is going to take 11th place in the Pro-Am class. It's not been his day, and I think there's some suspension damage on the 33, given the way the front right is pointing. But he gets to the end at 24th, and it's just not been Goldwyn Motorsport's day today, not whatsoever. But as Michael Lees completes his cool-down lap, he's going to be absolutely ecstatic with that drive, and I'm sure we're going to hear a word from him after the race is complete in the post-round interview room. Because for Michael Lees, what a day indeed. JW Motorsport really having the lion's share of the points in the Pro-Am class today, and Michael Lees moving his championship campaign firmly forward and an overall win to boot. That is a big result in the team's championship as well. Adam Delmont, credit where it's due. He fought his way past Mikey Doble. He had to work hard for it, and then he got on the back of Lees. But whether he just couldn't find a way to crack the puzzle that the JWM Motorsport machine presented him, or he'd run out of tyre life, either way, he just didn't have enough in the tank. And Andrew Pike, third place finisher, finding his way back past Mikey Doble towards the end as tyre life went his way. But it's always the way with the Hondas. They do have the tyre life over the distance, and Andrew Pike will be pleased with that result. But as all drives head into the pits, Matthew Jordan as well coming on in. Marcel Fritsch, second place in Am in this one, but the results have been very mixed in the Am class once again, and that's why this Am class championship definitely seems to be on a swivel. One day it goes the way of Marcel Fritsch, the other day it's going the way of Matthew Jordan, then Mark Sykes. It's going to be anybody's guess the way it stands coming out of the end of today. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries. And here they are. And as we can see, a brilliant race number 3 to complete our proceedings of round number 5 of the championship here at Oulton Park in the British countryside. And Michael Lees, your eyes do not deceive you, taking overall victory, prime victory, having started third on the grid, did exactly what he needed to do to hold on for JWM Motorsport. With that, Adam Delmont, second place there, runner-up for the leading pro driver for NXTGEN Green, ahead of Andrew Pike for the Sim Racing Collective Esports, who makes its 2 podiums and all 3 results inside the top 5. Mikey Doble, fourth there for Doble Sim Racing, ahead of his teammates Isaac and Joe, and in 7th place, Lee Horn there for NXTGEN Pink. Well, he'll be in awe at the fact that Doble Sim Racing really are right now consolidating those teams' points, and well, NXTGEN Pink have been the team to beat over the last few seasons. Indeed, they have won it for 6 seasons in a row, but something tells me that this season we do get some teams' points available. Doble Sim Racing may be leading the team's championship, and it could be a changing of the guard. But Lee Horn in 7th, then Reese Watt in 8th there, run up in the Pro-Am class for JWM Motorsport, and had to keep behind him a whole pack of hungry Pro-Ams, led by Ben Altrier for Full Tilt Motorsport with Boosted Motorsport. Returns to the Pro-Am podium there, and that'll put a smile on his face. And Sam Smith, iRacing Esports to drive 4th place in Pro-Am ahead of teammate Nick Clibbins, but iRacing Esports coming on strong later in the day. Nick Clibbins then was best of the rest, ahead of William Guthrie for Full Tilt Motorsport with Boosted Motorsport, and it was Tom Davidson in 13th for the Sim Racing Collective Esports, with that open lap instant coming down through Denton's in the end, really putting a big dent in his charge. Otherwise, I suspect he may have been competing for a podium, if not a top 5. Sam Van Olsen was 14th for Goldwyn Motorsport, and Benjamin Gregory just behind him there by 2 seconds, completing the overall top 15 for Full Tilt Motorsport with Boosted Motorsport. Alexander Paulick was 16th there, and you've got to feel for him, because after a lightning start that saw him jump all the way up into the top 10, it all came undone at the 4th corner on the open lap, where he recovered to 16th, but it's not been his day today. And the same for Jamie Dory. Technical issues and bad luck seem to abound for the number 13 driver, and well, definitely it has been the first half of the season to forget. Alan McCain, 18th ahead of Lewis Delmont, and well, unfortunate there for Lewis and NXTGEN Green, with the instant at the start of the race costing him the opportunity to chase down a Pro-Am victory, and that will definitely cut his Pro-Am lead in the championship by a sizable margin. It may even see him relinquish it to Michael Lees, depending on how the standings go. We'll give you the provisional update in due course, and Stuart Wine is 20th there for Track Scotland. Outside the top 20, we've still got more drivers to talk about, including Am winner there, Matthew Jordan. Missed race 1, had a dismal race number 2, but takes the top step for race number 3. Well, that's definitely a Phoenix rising for the Ashes there for NXTGEN Pink, ahead of Rhino Esports' Marcel Fritsch, and then Mark Sykes completing your Am podium. From the WSS Racing driver, it was then Duncan Rice in 24th ahead of Alex Meredith, your last lead lap finisher. Well, in fact, he was not on the lead lap. I apologise. Duncan Rice was your last lead lap finisher. And Alex Meredith, 4 laps down there for WSS Racing. The issues from race number 2 being compounded in race number 3. Conrad Could will be one of your last classified finishers, 5 laps down, as will Matthew Addy. And then we did have the unfortunate non-finishers of Russell Fowler and Luciano Witvoet. And you've got to feel for Witvoet in that contact coming down into Cascades. He was just an innocent party in the wrong place at the right time to be sent wide. And in the end, the Dutchman losing out on some big points. Indeed, that is going to have a huge shockwave being sent through the Oval Drivers' Championship. So 29 starters, and in the end 27 finishers, of which 24 on the lead lap, ladies and gentlemen. And that brings to a close all of our racing here today at the Oulton Park circuit. But it doesn't quite bring to a close all of the broadcast, however, because coming up in about 7 to 8 minutes time, we'll be presenting post-round interviews with our selected volunteer drivers. But in the meantime, whilst we are waiting to get those interviews underway, don't be shy, feel free to say hi, and if you haven't said hi, well, do let us know how you're doing. And alternatively, if you had said hi previously, do let us know what your favourite moments were from today's races, and we will be back in about 8 minutes time for those post-round interviews. We will see you very shortly, ladies and gentlemen. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is time for our post-round interviews. And so far, we've had 2 volunteers come forth. We may have a third in due course, but we're going to jump straight into it because they're both busy men, and I believe they both need to head off quite soon. And we're going to be kicking off with our Pro-Am class man who absolutely delivered in races 2 and 3. It'll be Michael Lees for JWM Motorsport, but we then do come to the pro classes, Andrew Pyatt for the Sim Racing Collective Esports. Both of them having fantastic nights of racing. But without further ado, it is my honour to bring into the interview room none other than Michael Lees. Good evening to you, Michael, and well, what a day of racing for yourself. I mean, you must be absolutely over the moon to take 2 Pro-Am victories, of which one of them also an overall victory, having to hold off Adam Delmont no less as well in race number 3. You must be ecstatic.
Can't complain, Paul. Can't complain. Yeah, I mean, what a fantastic day. Really great fun, and yeah, the results to back it up. So, good times.
Oh, 100% good times for yourself. And I've got to ask, is Oulton Park a circuit that you personally enjoy? Because you seem to have gone like lightning around here.
Yeah, it's my joker track. This is the one that I've always just had pace at and been good at, and I was looking forward to this one coming round, and it hasn't disappointed.
Well, without a doubt, it's not disappointed. And coming into this round, of course, championship-wise, it's starting to get a little bit close up the top because Lewis Delmont pulling a 21-point advantage coming into this round. You were sitting in third on the same points as Stuart Winess. But something tells me, as a result of this now, you're going to be fancying your chances for the second half of the season. And it all began with a great qualifying performance.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Thruxton was an absolute mare for me. I came last in most of the races, I think, because I don't know why, because I was, as far as I know, I was leading the championship going into that race, and then decided to take a gamble on a tyre choice, and it just didn't pay off. And all 3 the first race wasn't too bad, but the second and third races, I just made the absolute wrong call, and through stubbornness tried to stick it out. And got nowhere, so that's what put me so far behind into third for this one. But yeah, I knew this was coming, and I thought, you know what, let's just do it. Let's go for it. Keep it safe, keep it clean. But you know, I know I've got some pace around here. Yeah, and the qualifying went pretty much as well as it could come. I don't know where Ben got his pace from all of a sudden, because like through the practice and stuff, and even the qualifying, he's almost nowhere, and then all of a sudden he bangs in that lap and puts himself on Pro-Am pole. Took me by surprise, but I could have gone faster, but obviously I was carrying the weight for third place, so I think that really helped him out there. But yeah, second place, P4 overall in qualifying, can't complain at all.
Well, no complaints in qualifying, and in race number 1, we saw you end up in what was an 11-car fight, effectively, for third place. Of course, Ben Altrier holding the field up. We spoke to him after the race. He said he really enjoyed it. But something tells me you found yourself in a pack of cars where you had all the pace to move forward, but in the end you found yourself going backwards just as much as you could forward. Yeah,
you're not wrong at all. I mean, I was definitely faster than Ben through the race, and I think he even damaged his car possibly, because a few corners he was really slow, but the track's so narrow and almost one line, it's so hard to set a pass up. And he seemed to be decent out of the corners, which is where I needed to be quicker than him to set a pass up into the next one. So I could have dived up on the brakes, but I didn't want to do that because it's not always received very well. So I thought I'll not do any dives. I'll just wait it out, and then going down into turn 3, you know, the left-hander, I can't remember what it's called, the double apex left-hander that goes onto the back straight to the hairpin. I just got loose. I just got the back. I just over-braked a little bit, and it lifted the back up, and the back got loose, and I was up on the grass, and I lost about 4 or 5 places. Yeah, and in the end, I managed to, you know, claw 1 or 2 back because who was it? Will Guthrie, sorry, just stuffed one up the inside of Sam and spun him a little bit, so I managed to get that place back. But you know, I thought P4, I'll take it for race 1 with the weight and stuff, and we'll see how the rest of it goes. And well, you saw how it went.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, it was a fantastic ending to the race, but a lot left on the table for yourself. But you didn't waste any time in extracting results in race number 2, finishing 5th on the road, but most importantly for you, a winning class, and a 1-2 in the team between yourself and Rhys Watt.
Yeah, it's about time, really, isn't it? Me and Rhys brought a 1-2 home in the class. You know, he wasn't doing so well at the beginning. I don't know what happened. He'd just been away from the sim for a while, I think. But now he's back in the flow of things. He's right back up there again, and I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of this week he'll be back towards the top on the points as well. So, you know, I think for us it was a fantastic result because you know, 1-2 is as good as you can get, and for the team, you know, it's fantastic. Yeah, I think we're both starting to believe a little bit, so you know, we'll see how that goes for the rest of it, I guess. But race 2 was brilliant race. You know, we managed to get out in front. Rhys was in front of me, and then but I obviously had a little bit more pace, so we sort of organised our, you know, I'm going to go past because I think I can catch the guys in front, which I did end up doing. I didn't get past them. In fact, I didn't really want to get past them, to be honest. When I thought about it, I was going to, and then I was like, well, if I do go past them, I'm not gaining anything in my championship, and I'm also going to get extra weight. So I thought, yeah, I'll just sit here. This will be nice. But yeah, we tried to orchestrate a pass, and luckily you didn't catch it on the broadcast because we did end up touching a little bit, and it got a bit hairy. But yeah, it worked out.
Well, a bit of a hairy moment between yourself and your teammate, but still, you're able to survive it. And going into race number 3, we saw the number 7 drawn out a lottery bowl, so it put you quite close to the front by default. I could imagine you felt you fancied your chances of being able to run away with it.
Tell you what, I was a bit gutted that you pulled 7 and not 6 because they would have had a 1-2 on the grid as well. I was a bit worried about Lewis at the beginning, I'm not going to lie, because he had less weight, and I know he's quick round here, but through practice and stuff at the beginning, but I don't think he was running his weight in practice, and I think the weight caught him out, whereas I run the weight the whole time, practicing with the weight, so I was quite comfortable with it in the end. And I think that is literally what won me it. Just being comfortable with the weight. I don't know what happened to Lewis because he ended up going way back. So he must have had an incident or something on lap 1. I have no idea what happened to him. I'll have to watch it back. But yeah, him and Rhys both wheel spun off the line, and I just sived straight through the middle off the grid. I couldn't believe my luck. Like turn 3, I'm 1.4 seconds clear. I'm thinking, wow, what's going on here? And then yeah, it just went from there, and you know, I managed to keep Mikey a decent gap to Mikey until Adam got past, and as soon as Adam got past, and I've seen how much pace Adam's got, and I knew he was going to be a lot lighter than me, so I was like, he's coming, and I wasn't sure if I'd be able to hold him off, but I did know that he's getting close to some serious punishment, so I knew he wouldn't want to just fling one up the inside and risk penalty points on his license, so I kind of used that to my advantage, just put him in difficult positions to overtake, started parking it on apex and things, just you know, because I knew that my car wouldn't have the corner speed or acceleration that his did because of the weight, so I was like, okay, well, I'll just wait on the throttle until he gives me a little nudge and then I'll gas it. It's the old karting tricks. I used to race him in karting, so we used to do that to each other all the time, and it you know, it translates to this as well. So yeah, I just used that, and I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I was sweating, and you know, I was worried, and I was thinking, God, he's gonna get past me here. I'm gonna have to, you know, hug the apex and stuff, and somehow I managed to bring it home, and yeah, amazing feeling.
Oh, without a doubt, I can hear it in your voice, the happiness. And it's great to hear that rivalry between yourself and Adam extends way back to your earlier racing days, well before jumping on the simulator. And the respect is definitely there. I have to also imagine, though, as you were going around, before Adam did clear Mikey, you must have been thinking to yourself at some point, given how close they were, surely they're going to take each other off or just cost each other so much time that you don't have to worry.
I was kind of banking on them fighting a bit more than they did and slowing each other down so I could just keep extending the gap, but they didn't fight enough to keep Delmont away from me until the very end, so I still had to do a bit of work. But yeah, I was kind of relying on that. I was hoping Mikey was going to fight tooth and nail and just slow each other down and stretch the gap out. But yeah, as soon as he got past, I was like, he's coming. You know, Jaws theme started playing, and that was that. And he was right on me in 2 laps.
Well, you managed to fend off the charge from Adam Delvin and brought in home not just another class victory, making it 2 out of 3 today, but also what is another overall victory. You're one of our prime drivers who's got multiple overall victories now. I mean, they must always feel special.
I think this is only my second, so yeah. I've had a second place, I think, overall, and this is my second win. And yeah, I mean, they're both on British tracks. It was Brands Hatch, race 3, season, I don't remember, 7 maybe, and this. So yeah, race 3 again. So yeah, race 3s I prefer because it's a bit colder, and the colder conditions always seem to suit me. I don't know if it's just the way I use the tyres or what, but the cold weather always suits me better. Cold track temperatures. I just feel like I've got so much more grip, and the car just does what I want it to do. But yeah, I mean, like I say, it's only my second ever overall win, and yeah, it's amazing. Hopefully it's not my last.
Well, I'll definitely hold you to that, and I'm sure we will see you chasing overall victory at race number 3 again later on this season. But of course, we now head into our mid-season break. We've got a couple of weeks. In fact, I think we've got the best part of 5-6 weeks before we return. And when we do, sadly, there's no Croft for round 6. But are you perhaps hoping for a particular circuit for our next round?
I mean, I'd love it to be Oulton again, but I know that's not going to happen. I don't really mind, to be honest. I wouldn't mind a dry Thruxton, because I was quick at dry Thruxton. I was just bad in the wet. I assume it's going to be a British track, sticking with the sort of British touring car theme, but I don't know. Yeah, I as long as it's not Knockhill, I think I'll be all right.
Oh, fair play. Well, Knockhill is later in the season, so I doubt we'll see it, but I can't even tell you because I don't know what the plan is as of yet. It's all under discussion. But just before I do let you go, Michael, obviously we've got a bit of a break, but I'm sure we'll see you on the Legends grid in the interim. We've got plenty of Legends rounds coming.
Yeah, I mean, I'm away on holiday from Sunday, so I'll not be doing anything next week, but or the week after. But if there's some stuff going on after that, I'll jump on. Yeah, I should have. I'll have finished my university portfolio by this Friday, so that's all out the way. I don't have to worry about that. And once the holiday's done, I've literally just got some time to myself. And yeah, for the listeners out there, I am an old student. I'm like the oldest student in the university, so I'm not a kid. Just putting it out there.
Oh, goodness me. Well, you're still young at heart, no doubt about it. But one last question, as always, Michael, which is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast this evening?
Yeah, so, I mean, the JWM team, Reese, did a fantastic job today. The other half of my team, which is actually running the blue lobby, Paddy and Ian, they're always good lads, and hopefully they've had a good day today as well, running that. Yourself, Paul, no doubt this is going to be great when I watch you back. I can't wait. Jamie and all the boys, all the NXTGEN boys, Lee and Gavan and Mark and everybody else who put all the effort into making this thing keep clicking on and keep going. Yeah, that's about it really. And anybody who's watching in YouTube, Twitch, or I don't know if you're streaming on Kit yet. Are you streaming on Kit yet, Paul?
Not quite. On Facebook still.
Yeah, on Facebook as well. Don't forget the Facebook guys. But yeah, just that. Thank you all.
Well, Michael, likewise, a big thank you to you for joining me this evening, and well done once again. 2 class victories out of 3 races, and with it as well an overall win, your second in your NXTCC career. We look forward to plenty more when we come back at the end of July for round number 6, wherever it may be. But until then, my friend, well done once again, and have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you very much, Paul. Take care.
You too. So hearing it there from a very happy Michael Lees, you can hear it in his voice. He is beaming from head to toe, and he is absolutely right to be doing so. To hold off Adam Delvin like he did, and Adam Delvin is no pushover. As we always say, he is the champion without a championship title, given the pace he has at his fingertips. When he sees a position, he goes for it. But Michael, in the end, just held off the relentless pressure lap after lap in the closing stages and did so with aplomb. But before all that, Interested to hear his thoughts there. Loves this circuit, sees Oulton Park as a joker circuit, but was surprised by the fact that he was beaten to prime pole position by Ben Altriet late on in the qualifying session, and by a small margin, but a noticeable one. Race number 1 openly admitting there that he got caught up in all the fighting. It ended up pushing him backwards rather than forwards, but he made amends very quickly in race number 2, with a bit less weight in the car compared to his rivals, and in race number 3, more of the same, albeit he wished it had been a top 6 reverse grid, because then it would have been the JWM Motorsport machines on pole and second, rather than having Lewis Delmont at the front. But a bit of fortune ejecting Lewis Delmont from the picture, very quickly Michael went to work, and in doing so brought home a landmark result. I mentioned there as well in the championship, I'm sure we will get some provisional standings in due course, but the fact that with this score, this could really serve to move him up the order, and indeed move him potentially into lead, and with it his teammate Reese Watt may not be too far behind. And where so, this Pram Championship has had a new twist in the tail at a perfect time. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we now come to our second interviewee, and we're going to be hearing from Andrew Pike very shortly as he gets ready to join me in the interview room, and we're going to be hearing the story from Andrew as to how today how he feels about today with respect to the fact that his team, the Sim Racing Collective Esports team, and himself as an individual have had an absolute landmark day. But tell you what, rather than me gesticulate about what could have been, let's bring him on in and find out more from our pro driver. Good evening to you, Andrew, and well, what a day at Oulton Park. We just heard from a prime driver who's had a landmark day, but for yourself and the Sim Racing Collective Esports team, I mean, you and Tom must be absolutely laughing to the bank with the points you've walked out with today, because that was incredible.
I think it's an overwhelming feeling of relief more than anything, to be fair, mate, with the way the rounds have gone recently for us. Just nice to get a solid set of races where we don't get caught up in anything ridiculous. Tom had a bit of a problem there in race 3, which was unfortunate, but overall it's gone well for us, as you say. And yeah, for me personally at least, it's relief more than anything.
Well, that's absolutely fair. Bringing a big sigh of relief, and you can definitely now breathe and focus on enjoying the results more. Let's kick off with qualifying. The two of you locking out the front row. I mean, early on in qualifying, it was really looking as though it was all going TSRC from the start. I mean, is this a circuit where you both expected to go well?
Personally, no. I think with Tom, yes, probably. But Oulton Park seems to be one of those tracks you're either good at or you're not. There doesn't seem to be a middle ground. A lot of people don't like it. It's quite hard to pass. Qualifying was really important as a result. We did notice that the temperature was going up pretty quickly. Both managed to get a good lap in early. You may have noticed that both of our fastest laps were probably on lap 3, maybe 4 of the session. And then things seemed to drop off from there for everybody. I couldn't find that time again, but luckily nobody else could either. As I say though, the qualifying position was really important because it's so hard to pass, and we needed to make sure we also got a good launch off the line and then didn't take each other out at any point.
Well, they do say number 1 rule of motorsport is firstly finish the race, and number 2 is never take your teammate out if you battle with them. I mean, the two of you in race number 1, you had that lightning launch like you're saying, you disappeared off up the road, and the battling you two did, it was, I don't mean this unfairly, but it's almost as if you both sort of agreed, we're only going to fight at the most sensible parts at a very narrow circuit. We saw you both fight down into the hairpin, for example, but perhaps not unlike other drivers around the field. We didn't see a 2-wide going into Druids, for example. Was that a bit of a mutual, you know what, we'll have some fun, but we're not going to do anything that's going to spoil us bringing this result home?
Pretty much exactly that. We'd agreed we would race into turn 1. So if Tom got a poor launch, then I would take the lead, and if he got a good launch, he would stay in front, which is what happened. And then we agreed to kind of work together and see what happened. Pace was pretty much equal, so there was no point in swapping us around. Tom, firstly, had put it on pole, so in my opinion, rightly deserved to stay in front, but also is further up the standings than I am. We looked at the bigger picture there, but we did work out that there is a point, of course, for leading a lap, isn't there? So there was a swap over at one point. It may have looked like a battle, I guess. Tom did run a little bit wide, which presented the opportunity to do that, but we had worked out that, of course, that is also available for us. So a quick swap over just to take that point and then restore things as they were. Pace between us, as I say, was absolutely equal. We both seemed to be right on it there, so we just agreed to work together and try and make the most of a really good opportunity.
Well, a great opportunity there for you both to score big points, and appreciate the clarification on race number 1 and how that played out. So a huge score, Tom getting the win as well as yourself getting the second. And going into race number 2, of course, now starting from the front row again, however, a lot more weight in the Hondas this time. And we did see very quickly the field climbing up and chasing you both down, albeit you weren't far off of the leading pace.
No, I think the tyre drop-off was a little bit harder. I don't know if that was the same for everybody carrying the weight, or whether I just didn't do a very good job with the front tyres, but by the time Mikey Doble caught the pack, I was pretty much dead in the water there. So it was a question of, I mean, early on, again, we agreed to just keep our noses clean and see where we end up. Luckily, Luciano was on the same page as well, so we all got a nice tidy start, and then, you know, any fighting was fair game, but everybody was pretty sensible about it. But yeah, we stayed on pace for a while, but I did struggle from around about mid-race onwards. That much ballast is a little bit hard to carry in that heat, so that's the price you pay for a good race one, I suppose. But the target is to stay sort of in the decent points paying positions and keep yourself in with a shout of a decent reverse grid. So it was a solid result for the pair of us. Decent race.
Oh, 100% agree on that. A solid result and another top 5 in your ballpark, and Tom picking up a podium at just about. And in race number 3, we saw P7 come out of the Lottery Bowl. It meant that the pair of you were lined up right in the mid-pack of the reverse grid. And in the early stages, at least, a bit of an interesting conundrum developed for yourself. You found Mikey Doble fighting his way through quite quickly, but in the late stages, it's almost as if you started to come back at him.
Yeah, so Mikey clipped the tyres, I think, in the first chicane after the hairpin, and it looked like he had a bit of damage. There's no way I was that much faster than him all of a sudden without that. So although I can't be certain, it certainly looked like he'd taken some damage there. But I got a really poor start. I spun the wheels a little bit too aggressive with the clutch, which I think, looking back, probably saved me a little bit, because the incident between Lewis Delmont and Tom could well have involved me as well had I got the start that I should have got. So I won't curse that too much, and it was my own fault anyway. But yeah, I think Mikey's damage there just allowed me to reel him in, and he was respectful. You know, he defended as much as he could, but you could see that he knew he wasn't going to hold on to that. I spent a good amount of time trying to get past Reece Watt as well. He put up a unbelievable fight, made that very, very difficult, which is enjoyable on one hand, but also put a big gap between me and the top 3 at that point, which is absolutely fair. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a race at the end of the day. I don't expect a red carpet at all, but that was hard work getting through there. I mean, I was just a little bit too late to the party at the end. It was a great fight in front of me between Dell and Michael, but I sadly couldn't be a part of that. But it's still, as you say, it's a good set of results regardless, and I can't complain at all.
100%, a fantastic set of results. And well, it's an interesting thought what you're saying about the difficulties in launching the car, but that pulled you away from the subsequent event that happened for Tom and seeing him go off the road. Excuse me, I mean, from Tom's perspective, I presume it was one of those race starts whereby it's happened, there's nothing you can do about it, because it did look as though, well, we had a lot of drivers in the earlier races get it wrong coming through Dentons into Cascades, and Tom and Lewis just happening to be in the wrong place at the right time to see it all go wrong for them.
Yeah, it's just, looking at the replay, it's just an unfortunate one where Lewis is on the outside, Tom's in the middle, there is a car on the right, but it probably doesn't quite have an overlap. Tom's just holding in the middle of the road, and there's a little bit of contact between him and Lewis, and that's how easily it can go wrong there. We see it in real life. And we see it in here very regularly. Somebody gets spat to the infield. I will say, if anybody does look back at the replay, Tom did an incredible job of not sliding back onto the track and skittling everybody. Had he done that, I would have absolutely been one of the victims as he rejoined. I was pretty much right there. So 10 out of 10 from him for surviving that. But yeah, it's just one of those unfortunate things early in the race, I would say. We'll let the stewards sweat that one out and see what they come out with.
Oh, that's absolutely fair, and like you say, I completely agree. When we did briefly get the replay footage to see Tom take the rallycross line down through Cascades, but to avoid come charging back on the circuit, some great car control. But coming from difficulties of race number 3 to the bigger pitch now, the first half of the season is complete, and as you alluded to earlier, it's been mixed results so far for yourself. But the momentum's on a high, and when we come back at the end of July, are you expecting or hoping for any particular circuits, given that we can't come to Croft?
I mean, I've probably sounded a bit like a stuck record, but I'd hope for a bit of wet weather more than anything. That absolutely suits me. Although at Thruxton I got the tyre choice wrong, and then was caught up in several accidents that didn't really involve me, if I'm honest. The pace was still there. So with regard to the tracks, I'm happy with most of the British tracks. It's a question of whether I get qualifying right and whether the weather plays ball for me. But much as every week, I look forward to every round, to be honest. The racing is that good. I wouldn't mind if we were going around the centripetal circle. If we had to, that would be good enough for me.
Well, absolutely fair. And, well, if the weather does come your way, I'm sure we'll see you right back up there. But even so, we'll still see you giving it your best week in, week out. Well, Andrew, just before I do let you go, of course, the last question I have to ask is there anybody you'd like to give a shout-out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
Yeah, all of you guys at NXTGEN, as always. Fantastic organisation, good fun. Anybody that's still clinging on watching the broadcast at this point, fair play to you. I hope it's been worth it. And all the boys at TSRC, Tom put a great effort in tonight, as I say, but also Sharpie often works in the background looking at the weather with us, helping us make decisions with the tyres, etc. So everybody involved there as well. Big thanks to all of them.
Well, Andrew, a big thank you to you as well for joining me for a post-race interview this evening. Well done on an absolutely brilliant set of results to both you and Tom, and we look forward to plenty more when we come back from the mid-season break. And I hope the fortune continues to come your way, because we do love to see the TSRC machines right up there battling for victory. But until then, have a great rest of your evening, and we'll speak soon, I'm sure, my friend.
Thanks very much, mate. All the best. Cheers.
You too. So hearing there from Andrew Pike for the Sim Racing Collective Esports, and commenting tonight on, firstly, a bit of a surprise in qualifying. Didn't expect to be all the way up the very front, but knowing that to go into this round needed a big score, given the fact that so far this season it hasn't quite gone the way that he's wanted it to. For Tom, his teammate, Tom Davidson, well, it was the situation whereby Tom, I think, felt as though the circuit perhaps suited him a bit more, and therefore he could get more out of the car. But in the end, to find themselves on the front row of the grid, well, that goes to show you that sometimes you can surprise yourself and how the success balance can change things up as well. However, they had to put in the laps to put themselves there, and in race number 1, in the end of really running it as a bit of a formation, having a little bit of a scrap as per an agreed rule between the two teammates, but otherwise being smart and being sensible about it. And that common sense, it played out quite comfortably for them, and in the end it meant a 1-2. Race number 2, as he alluded to there, with the weight in the car, it did mean that he was expecting to go backwards, but held on to 4th place despite having to manage the rather aggressive tyre wear. And in race number 3, we're explaining there that the sudden change of fortune being due to Mikey Doble having contact with the barrier at the chicane, and therefore it did mean that suddenly the pace of the Doble Sim Racing machine fell, and for Andrew Pike it was an opportunity to steal 3rd place back. But looking ahead to the second half of the season, and mentioned there, only looking for rounds with rain, because the rain is where he goes strong, even if it didn't quite work out at Thruxton. So that's his hope and expectation. And will it be rainy days? Will it not? Well, we'll only be able to find out when we get there come the end of July. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, always keep your eyes out for the Sim Racing Collective Esports team, because one thing you can be certain is Andrew Pike and Tom Davidson, they'll be giving it their all no matter what, and they always look fine when they're right up there batting for the podiums, if not outright victory. But with that, that brings our interviews to a close for this evening. We only had 2 interviews. However, it's been great to speak to our Prime and Pro drivers. We heard initially from Michael Lees for JWM Motorsport in the Prime class, and we also just heard from the Pro classes, the Sim Racing Collective Esports, Andrew Pike. But it does mean now, ladies and gentlemen, we must turn our attentions to wrapping up, because sadly, unfortunately, we do not have the provisional standings available due to a slight technical hitch. So therefore, we're not going to be able to give you an update on how the standings stand after our 5th round, but we will give you a full update on the standings when we do come back for round number 6. And therefore, it is going to be time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show, and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to know more about the Next Gen racing community, well, for all that and more, we definitely recommend you check out firstly our official website, and that's at www.nextgenracing.co.uk, and well, there's never been a better time to be on the grid at Next Gen Racing. Whether you are a rookie in the sim racing world, all the way through to professional esports driver, there's a place for you at the home of clean and fair sim racing for all. And on our website, you can find out all the latest information with respect to our ongoing and upcoming series, and also join the beating heart of Next Gen Racing, which is the official Discord. But if you don't want to go to our website, perhaps you're more of a social media person, well, we do recommend you join our official Facebook group, and that's at facebook.com/groups/Next Gen Racing. Where there you can stay up to date with all the latest information, much like on our website, but also you can get to know some of the staff and admin members more closely, including what they do not just on the virtual circuit, but also on the real life racing circuit, with a number of them being track marshals, if not real life racing drivers and racing stewards. But with that, we'd also like to take a moment to say a thank you to our sponsors, without whom this would not be possible. They do include PowerMax, Next Level Racing, Mark Sykes Designs, Joyce Design, Douglas Motorsport, Sam Cases UK, Falcon PC Builds and Support, Benji Sim Photos, and of course our title sponsor for this season, Doble Motorcycles. And if you are in the market looking to buy your next two-wheeled machine or ATV, why not consider Doble Motorcycles, the UK's leading Honda motorcycle dealer, indeed having won Honda Dealer of the Year 4 times. The Doble family-run business prides itself on customer service, and it shows. And if you want to be in pole position to receive excellent customer service from lights out to checker flag, all you need to do is head to their website, and that is doble.co.uk. That website again, doble.co.uk. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, attention now turns to the summer break. And as we make our way into it, the big question mark is, where will we be racing? Because Croft Circuit has not made its way onto iRacing, sadly, but with it, it opens up a door. And one thing we can promise you is, whatever circuit is selected, it will present just as much of a challenge as Croft would. But the question mark is there, and hand on heart, I do not know what it will be. But as soon as we do, we will be announcing it officially in the Next Gen Racing community pages and Discord. And it will be where we continue the story after the summer break. So set up your tents, enjoy the sunshine, ladies and gentlemen, and we will be back on Tuesday the 29th of July 2025 to continue with the second half of the championship season at our to be confirmed destination. Until then, of course, we do have the weekly, what will become weekly, Legends series as our stopgap, and you'll get to see plenty of brilliant racing in that, as brought to you by myself on a weekly basis. But until then, that's all we've got time for in the Next Gen Racing Touring Car Championship for part 1 of this season. Season 9 will be back in just over a month's time. And therefore, we have been Next Gen Racing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, have a fantastic summer holiday ahead, and most importantly, as always, remember to stay on track. Good night. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, that's all from us here at Next Gen Racing, the home of clean and fair sim racing for all.